one, and it's Nebraska eats Samsonov. The shoulder to get off at an early edge.
You know, the key to this goal is the speed. We've seen a lot where players have come in so slowly. Well, what does the speed do? It forces Samsonov to move quickly, and then just a quick flick.
Charlie Mills next. Boston has a 2-goal lead in the shoot. And he's got it through, but out the other side. And the Boston Bruins are now 9-0-1 as Jeremy Swayman backs up a 3-2 shootout win.
So that was last night's Bruins Maple Leafs game. Bruins won in a shootout last night, 3-2. Austin Matthews, in the end, came up short. Let's be realistic here. He choked last night in the shootout in the end there. Bruins escaped with a win, 3-2. The Bruins last night, they had a pretty good advantage. I thought they had a pretty good lead for the most part. They let Toronto get back into it a little bit with goals from Austin Matthews and Manor last night. And I was in and out of the game really because I was also watching the Titans Steelers game. I will admit that. Plus, the game was just buffering at that point in time. I could never get it back. There were certain points where I missed the entire second period because of that, or watched most of the second period really, but could not watch the last period until this morning actually. So much for ESPN Plus streaming. I was able to download for the first time. I'm going to cancel that app because I'm not going to spend it monthly here. The Bruins are not going to be on every month, so. They might as well. I think they will be, but here's a tip for all you bar people out there. Get ESPN Plus package. It's not a hard thing to do. You pay $10.99 every month, you could do it. If you could pay Amazon Prime $20 a month for football, then you can do it for hockey for ESPN Plus, or really for anything else for that matter, not just hockey. But anyway, but make sure you have a really strong Wi-Fi when you actually do eventually purchase that streaming device, because if you don't, well, you're going to get tons of buffering, tons of issues, and tons of signals mixed. And that's the thing with ESPN Plus trying to do it on your phone if you're at a bar. It's not doable because realistically your phone's going to get all screwed up and it's not going to be a strong Wi-Fi count. And I hate that about streaming devices. At least with cable, you don't have to worry about buffering. You don't have to worry about all this loading out crap. It's just, it is what it is. I'm going to get into more hockey a little bit later on here. I wanted to start the show by talking NBA from last night. A lot of good scores from last night's games. A lot of good games that were on last night overall last night that I thought were worth mentioning last night. Let me just get my phone to connect to the actual screen I want to get to here. It's not working for whatever reason this morning. God, I hate this damn phone. Wembaya last night. Victor Wembaya pretty much owned the Phoenix Suns last night in their 132-121 win. Wembaya was the man last night. He dropped 38 points last night, a career high for him this early in the season against the Suns. And I know what people are thinking. They didn't have Bradley Beal. They didn't have Devin Booker. I understand that argument here, but here's the way I look at it. There's not one Spur defender that's under 6 feet tall. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal are right around the same height as like 5 of the Spur starters that are on that team. And Wembaya, and I guess Booker did play last night. Booker was on the floor last night in that lineup. You had Booker in there last night. There was no Bradley Beal still. I don't believe Bradley Beal was even on the floor last night. Durant was on the floor. He had 37 minutes last night, 28 points. Devin Booker had 35 minutes on the floor, 31 points. Booker was 10 for 19. Durant was 10 for 15. Durant had 6 rebounds and 1 assist. Booker had 9 rebounds, 13 assists last night. Still wasn't enough. Wembaya, 38 points, 15 for 26 shooting, 3 from 6 from 3, 10 rebounds, 2 assists. That was a big game last night. 35 and nearly 35 minutes of action, you get 38 points. Wembaya was a menace last night. And the numbers are, I know people are thinking 15 for 26. Well, it could have been that deceiving. Well, when you're going to go up against Durant and Booker on the floor at the same time, I don't even think Bradley Beal would have made that much of a difference. I don't think he would have. Collins had 19 points. Showan had 14 points. Johnson had 7. Vessel had 17 points last night for the Spurs. From the bench, Dougie McDermott, former Creighton star, 6 points. Osman had 13 points last night. Jones had 12, and Bazey had 3. But anyway, my thoughts were from the Phoenix Suns last night was this is a team that at this point they're going to have a hard time with all year. And losing 2 straight to them at home is not a good start. I'm sorry. I mean, here's the way I look at it. I mean, you have Bradley Beal who didn't play. You could have put Bobo in there last night to counter Victor Wembaya. I think that would have been an interesting head-to-head matchup center-wise because you got outplayed. I'm not sure what Phoenix was thinking last night and not putting Bobo in there. But I just think to myself right now, like this is the same head coach that quit on the Lakers and basically was burnt out. So to go in there against this Phoenix Suns team that you still can't get Bradley Beal back in, which I mean, I have a funny feeling that Bradley Beal, if he's injured now at this point, has not played for the Suns yet up to this point. With his injured back, which I think Booker had the ankle, and I think Beal had the back here. If this back is an issue going forward here, and he doesn't play all the way through, and he plays later on in the year, well, that just hurts your chances really for a deeper seating position. Because I think they need Bradley Beal back in the floor. I think they also needed Bobo on the floor last night defensively. Because you really had no answer last night defensively if you were the Suns last night. And I know what people are thinking. This is now they could beat the Milwaukee Bucks that way. I kind of think they can. I mean, if they can go to Phoenix twice here and they could beat the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that's doable here. I think that you can put the Spurs back in the playoff conversation. I thought this team was going to be in a rebuild process year. This team looks like they're for real. And I think, I look at it and I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, you're going to play this team 2 more times probably this year in San Antonio. And I can see Phoenix winning one of those matchups. I just can't imagine them losing all 4, but it gets you thinking. And Nurkic last night had 7 points last night, and 3 rebounds. Here's the way I look at it. He didn't play like a center last night defensively. He doesn't have a defensive presence to him. And when you play Wembaya, you have to look like you're ready to face him. And 2 times in a row now, when you face Wembaya, and I'm going to go back to Tuesday's matchup game here because, like I said before, I think this is just a pretty good example of this, really. Wembaya had not really a big game, but, act like you want to match up head-to-head with him, Nurkic, I think, had 12 points in that game. Didn't do much in that game either, but Wembaya kind of outplayed him too. And I got to be honest here. In the 2 games combined, you've allowed Wembaya to score 52 points. Just think about it that way. You allowed Wembaya to go in there and score 52 points in Phoenix in 2 straight games, single-handedly. So my thoughts are this. If you're a San Antonio Spurs fan, which I think most people are, that was not a good outlook. And I got to be honest here, if this is how they're going to play now going forward here, I just think, there's a lot in that. There's a lot there to digest. And again, it gets people thinking, this is how this is going to play out here. It's just, I don't know. That was my thought process throughout this whole thing. That's what it was. That in of itself, I got to be honest here. If and this is just my takeaway about the whole game from last night. The Phoenix Suns without Bradley Beal here are not, in my opinion, a fit playoff team. I think when they had depth in their bench, it made some sort of sense here. Getting rid of Cameron Payne made no sense. You still could have used him as a bench player. He was ultimately a bench player anyway. He was going to be demoted as a bench player in Milwaukee anyway when he signed the deal. So it made no sense for him to go leave Phoenix and go take a demotion role in a different team. I don't know. That's just my discretion there in that one. Raptors last night lost to the 76ers 114-99. Embiid last night scored 28 points. Scotty Barnes had 24. Siakam had 10 points. Anunoby had 16. Schroeder had 13 points, 10 assists last night. He was really the go-to guy last night for Toronto last night, other than Scotty Barnes. But Scotty Barnes and Schroeder on the same floor together is a two-headed monster. But Philadelphia managed to figure out a way to expose that. Tobias Harris had 23 points last night. Maxey had 18 points. Kelly Oubre Jr. had 23. Melton had 4. That was your starting role last night. Off the bench, only 6 points were scored by Bamba. Mo Bamba was on the floor last night for the Sixers. He was only able to score 6 points. Patrick Beverley had 28 minutes off the bench, only scored 2 points. Really good defensive presence, though, I will say. Really good defensive presence. Kormas had 10 points. I got to be honest here with the 76ers right now at this point, without James Harden here. They're better off. They're better off without James Harden. So the way I see it, I mean, there's not really much there with this 76ers team other than the fact right now that they're better off without him. They really are. And I mean, the one key difference in this whole thing here is this. Like, Toronto just does not have the strength to go on a deep run playoff-wise. They're first-round one-and-dones once this is all said and done. I mean, unless they make some big moves here in the trade deadline later on in the year to get better, that's what they need to do. Because last night they couldn't handle Philadelphia last night. They couldn't handle Joel Embiid last night. They couldn't handle Tobias Harris. They couldn't handle Maxey and Kelly Oubre Jr. That's four guys right there who are right now amongst the elite right now. Kelly Oubre Jr., I'm willing to even put it in there because realistically, he could play. The guy could play. Kelly Oubre Jr. was an underrated player in Charlotte. Everyone was looking at LaMelo Ball. Here in Philadelphia, he's shining on his own. I mean, that's the way you look at it right now. He's outplaying Tyrese Maxey at this point. Maxey, who's not really known as an elite right now, I'd put Oubre Jr. over him anyway. In fact, I would probably just, put in number 3, put Tobias Harris in number 2, make him be number 1. And Embiid's your number 1 player. He's the face of your franchise. So rally around him if you're Philadelphia. So last night, the Orlando Magic beat the Utah Jazz 115-113. Paolo Banchero, the second-year man out of Duke, got the lead in points last night at 30 points last night for the Magic. Markin for the Jazz had 22. Wagner had 21. Wendell Carter Jr. had 14. And Suggs had 6. This might as well be the Duke Blue Devils over Orlando. When I look at this team, that's what I think of when I watch the Orlando Magic play at this point. I don't normally get into that Jazz with that thing. But the Jazz last night, which was a good leeway, Clarkson had 21 points last night. Horton Tucker had 15. Collins had 20. Morgan had 22. I'm not sure how the Jazz didn't win this game. Everybody was in pretty much 3 out of the 5 players were in 20 points or more last night. I just thought that was strange. Overall, the Jazz last night had Sexton on the bench, which I'm shaking my head with because I think to myself, the guy's a capable starter in the league. I don't know why he had him on the bench. He isn't great, but I think he's better than Clarkson, I think. And I think the Jazz last night could have used him on the floor late in the game. But I think in reality, the Magic had a better team. You got a guy on the floor who's going 9 for 13 in the game, 1 for 2 from 3, out-rebound everybody, giving the assists is right there. You look at Wagner and Banchero on the floor together, that's a good set right there. I'm not sure what the Magic are at this point because they're kind of a wild card team. Like last year, they beat the Celtics twice in Boston. To me, I don't know if they are the same team at this point that can handle the Boston Celtics in Boston in some of these regular season games or even the playoffs if they even make it that far. I don't know if they know where they're going to be into once they face Boston later on this season, but it's going to be interesting. And as far as them beating the Jazz last night, impressive road win. I mean, they had 2 losses to the Clippers and the Lakers. So far in his West Coast trip. So good for them. Their next game, I believe, is happening again. Actually, tomorrow at home against the Lakers. So Lakers have their return game there. Then they're back on the road again. Or no, they're still staying at home. They actually have to face the undefeated Dallas Mavericks on Monday at 7 p.m. So that should be an interesting game. That really should be an interesting game. And by the way, they're not playing the Celtics again until December. So they got a whole month to figure out what they're going to do with that matchup there. Pelicans beat the Pistons last night, 125-116. CJ McCollum scored 33 points last night. Detroit are who they thought they were, complete frauds. I got to say, realistically, at this point, they can't handle the Pelicans. They can't really handle a lot of basketball teams that are good. I think their playoff stretch continues here of them missing it. I don't see them making the playoffs or even winning another playoff game for a while. They could have used somebody like a Victor Wembaya on their team. Instead, Cade Cunningham is the one that's going to carry the whole team here, which I think that sucks to be him. Because right now, none of these guys have proven commodities yet. You kind of look at Marvin Bagley III. He's kind of proven of an average center. That's really about it. Otherwise, the rest of this team is just there. I mean, it's not really much else there to say, really. So, I mean, Cade Cunningham's your guy. And if I'm Cade Cunningham right now at this point, and I want to go play somewhere else, and I have a funny feeling he does. He does not want to be on this Piston team. I'd ask for a trade. I mean, you've been there now for 3 years now. You're just getting the realization now this team is not good. They're not good at all. They're not going to be able to compete with the Celtics, the Bucks, the Heat. It's not realistic. Even though Miami right now looks like they suck and they actually have a better record than Miami does. Still, it's kind of pathetic, really, when you think about it, really, knowing that this guy right now is wasting his youth away for the Pistons. I know it's early in the year to say it, but he kind of is. And there's no telling what they're going to do. Let's put it that way. Tonight, I never thought I would ever get into this one tonight, but they start their in-season stupid tournament group play tonight. You have the Warriors playing the Thunder tonight at 8 p.m. You have the Mavericks playing the Nuggets at 10 p.m. You have the Cavaliers Pacers at 7, followed by the Knicks Bucks, Wizards Heat, Nets Bulls, and the Grizzlies are playing the Trailblazers tonight. These are all group play in-season mode, which I think that takes place just for tonight. I think they're only doing it Tuesday and Friday, I want to say, throughout the season. So that's, to me, it's a who cares thing. The Celtics don't play again until Saturday. They play the Brooklyn Nets. You have the Utah Jazz playing the Timberwolves. The Suns are at the 76ers. Hornets are at the Pacers. Lakers are at the Magic. Hawks, Pelicans, Kings, Rockets, and the Bulls are at the Nuggets tomorrow night. For Sunday, it's Suns, Pistons, Raptors, Spurs, Warriors, Cavs, Hornets, Mavericks, and Grizzlies, Trailblazers. I think the Spurs win again this weekend. I don't think there's really a chance here that they lose that one. They go to 4-2. And I think the 76ers beat the Phoenix Suns and get into a 2-4 start. I don't think they're ready. Without Bradley Beal, it's going to be kind of hard to really see the Phoenix Suns going in this game here against this 76er team and beat them in their place. I just can't see that happening right now at this point. Now, when they get a full bill of health and by the time they play them again, I think they'll even up the matchup here. But I think realistically, you could argue right now that the Phoenix Suns are right now at this point are in trouble right now at this point. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And I gotta say, San Antonio, you could put them in right now as a contender. I would say right now, I don't think they're the pretenders. I think they're contenders here this season. And I got to be honest here. I mean, the way I look at the Spurs right now at this point, Wembaya owns the Suns. Because Kevin Durant could have done these by himself. Devin Booker could have given him help as well. I think the rest of that team needs to step up. There's no question about it. The problem is you have a soft head coach that doesn't call anybody out. And I think realistically, when you have a soft head coach that's on the roster that should be calling these people out, and it just doesn't seem like that's the case right now going forward, you're going to get what you're going to get. And right now, Greg Popovich at this point is kind of the reason why this team's having success right now. Without this team, who knows if Wembaya will be good? You got the best head coach right now, and I know what people are thinking. I just basically shot down the idea of Greg Popovich losing it and not being the guy. I was wrong on that part. Really was wrong. So that's the way I look at it. Frank Vogel, though, who is the current head coach for this team, a guy that was, out-coached by LeBron, out-coached by Russell Westbrook, out-coached really by the entire Lakers organization and was just a placeholder to whoever else was going to take over that job. Like I said, I don't think he's the right fit for this team. I really don't think he is. And a lot of people had this team going 50-32 this year because of the ability of coaching from Frank Vogel. It was going to get in the way of this team's success. I questioned the Monty Williams firing before all this. Now he's coaching the Detroit Pistons now, this boy. I think Phoenix kind of misses them, and I think Monty Williams misses Phoenix. I hate to say it. He got a new deal, though, so that means now he's dead locked into Detroit now and going to fail for the next 5 years at Detroit. That's one way of looking at it. So that sucks right now on his part. Now let's get into the NHL from last night. We got to get into hockey mode. I think I mentioned, pretty much already mentioned the Bruins here. I'm not sure what the heck's going on this morning with the Wi-Fi here, but it's not working out too great. Islanders shut out the Capitals last night, 3-0. Not much else to tell there. Dallas Stars beat the Oilers 4-3 in Edmonton last night. That was pretty much a good game to watch. I watched the highlights of that this morning. I thought realistically that was a hell of a game. Duchesne got a goal last night for Dallas that opened up right now. Then Evander Kane responded with a goal of their own later in the period. Second period, Pavelski, he gets a goal in there last night. Then Hintz gets on a power play, gets a goal last night for Dallas, makes it 3-1. Hintz again opens up. He gets a second goal of the night in the third period, makes it 4-1. Gagner gets 2 straight goals for the Oilers, but that is all the Oilers could have done there. They came up short late in the end there. Stars get the win in Edmonton, 4-3. I don't know if Oilers are in rebuild mode at this point. I'm not sure what their story was last night going into this game, but they're not the same team. I mean, they don't look like a playoff hockey team right now at this point. I know it's early in the year. I know they could try to stick their way back in this point and make it a story, just like, some teams have done it before in the past here. I feel it with this team. I think right now, and I mentioned it yesterday, Leon Draisaitl, who might as well be the face of the entire league, really, not just this team. Because I think Connor McDavid at this point has lost his luster and lost his competitiveness and really has just been the most forgotten face of hockey right now for a while. I mean, there's been debate for years about Ovechkin and, Sidney Crosby and whether or not they've been the face of hockey. And let's be realistic here. Crosby was always the face of the NHL. There's no denying that at all. Even when Ovechkin finally won that ring and finally, broke that threshold and got himself to be a champion, it was well too late. I mean, Crosby already had dominated most of the league at that point by winning 3 Stanley Cups. And, and I got to say realistically here, when you kind of look at this Edmonton Oilers team, is it too late to say to Leon Draisaitl at this point it could be the face of the NHL? No. Is it too late for him to get traded? No. Evander Kane, is he going to stay in Edmonton? I don't think he's going to. I think he's realistically need to go somewhere else. I wouldn't honestly mind if they trade away all 3 players from Edmonton. They all need a fresh start. You look at the playoffs; they're on a playoff hangover. Whatever their excuse is here, it's not looking good. They're digging themselves deep in a hole at this point that I don't think they can get out of. And I got to say, realistically, they're not that good. And it's surprising for 3 talented players on the same team. It's like the big 3 in Canada, and they can't get it to figured out here. It's just, I can't believe it. I really can't. Vegas Golden Knights remain undefeated. They got the 5-2 win last night over the well, technically they're not undefeated, but I mean they're 10-0-1. They won 5-2. Marshall had a hat trick last night. Carlson got a goal last night. Townsend had a save last night in the game. Carlson got the goal to open up the game. That was the only goal he scored all night. Marshall had a power play goal. So did Bavasi right now. He got the goal last night. And Connor scored a goal for Winnipeg. Marshall and Bavasi got 2 goals. Made it 3-1 in the second period. Third period, Lafayette got a power play goal of their own. Jets take the lead down to 1. Then Marshall put the game away. Had a goal of his own. They had the empty netter late in the game. Golden Knights get the win 5-2. They are now, I think, by far the best team in hockey. This is the best opening season for any team that is a defending champion. They look like a team right now that is really on a mission to win another one. And I got to say at this point, they're impressing a lot of people here. The way I see it, at this point, who the hell's going to stop them? they're disciplined enough to not get the championship woes at this point. Their hangovers, the parties, the distractions. They're serious. They're just like the Patriots at this point, doing your job. That's what I think of at this point when I watch this Golden Knights team play hockey. And it's just I don't normally cross that sport over with that one here. It's that early in the year, but when you play 11 games and you've won 10 of them, and you've only had the one overtime loss, which was a cheap one by the Blackhawks. Again, I just look at that team. I think to myself, I can take this team seriously. They let one slide like that. They move on. They don't even think about it. I mean, that right there is a real competitive Golden Knight team that's going to make a playoff run. Excuse me for 1 second. I got to blow my nose. Ugh. I hope to God I'm not getting this cold back. I really hope to God I'm not. I mean, the worst thing I could have happen to this point. Oh. Anyway, that was a big snot rag there. You hate to see it. I gotta wash my hands. Come on 1 second. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. So the Kings beat the Senators last night 3-2. They were able to manage to go into Ottawa last night, pull out the win. Cropper had a goal last night for the Kings. Danault had a power play goal to open up the game, really, 3 minutes into it. Grunderstrom had a goal. They were 3-0 at this point. Kubiak had a power play goal, and Norris had a goal late midway in the third period, but the Senators could not get a goal after that one. Kings got the escape win in Ottawa 3-2. Panthers shot the Red Wings 2-0. The Rangers beat the Hurricanes 2-1. The Blue Jackets beat the Lightning 4-2. Devils beat the Wild 5-3. Coyotes beat the Canadiens 3-2. Kraken beat the Predator 4-2. And the Vancouver Canucks beat the San Jose Sharks. I know what people are thinking the Sharks suck. They beat them 10-1 last night. Vancouver's 7-2-1. That's nuts. Brock Boeser had a power play goal. He got his 7th goal of the year, leads his team in goals. JT Miller had a power play goal. It was 2-0 there. Hughes had a goal. Browser again had a power play goal, made it 4-0 by the end of the fifth. He had 2 power play goals. Think about that one. This is the best power play hitter in hockey right now, in my opinion, Brock Boeser. Mielecki got a goal for Vancouver. Kramuska had a goal. Lafieri had a goal. And Sutter had a goal. This was all in the second period. 8-0. Third period. Bulver, power play goal. Bulver, a goal. And Zetterlund late in the game had a goal, which I got to be honest here at this point, I would have just played just for the shutout here, just for pure dominance. I would have gotten that team shut out at home, in their home. 0-9-1, the Sharks are now officially at this point. This Sharks team is in total rebuild mode. They'll get the first-round draft pick next year. They are the worst team in hockey. That's not even a debate here. And I think they could have used Connor there more than Chicago had used him. I hate to say it, but that's the truth here. But Brock Boeser right now is the best player in hockey right now at this point. He's been the best player since this whole season started. And I got to say right now, Vancouver, very underrated team. No one really covered them a lot here their start of the year. They're kind of a scary team, not going to lie. Between them and the Golden Knights at this point, those are 2 scary teams right now in the Western Conference, I think. And I got to say realistically here, as far as any other team that could get in the conversation here, you could put the LA Kings right in that same conversation, the Dallas Stars. Right now, those are your top 4 right now, if I would say right now in the Western Conference that could make a lot of noise. Watch out for Vancouver, though. Vancouver's got some depth to them. They are a serious team. Dallas, to me, I think realistically, I mean, I can see them being the second-round elimination to that team. LA Kings face the Knights right now in the second round as well. They can eliminate them. I can see this being the Golden Knights and Vancouver Canucks. Now, as far as who wins that series, it's an unknown to me because I would love to see these teams play at it in a regular season mode at this point. And I got to be honest here, I think I think Vancouver can hang with the Golden Knights. I really think they can. There's no telling at this point on what's going to end up happening with Vancouver long term, but right now, they look like a very quiet team at this point that people should be looking out for more and not taking them lightly. Columbus last night got the win over Tampa Bay, I mentioned earlier, 4-2. Lightning are just completely – they're not the same team. They might be a playoff team late in the year, but I think they're going to be out in the first round. I don't think they're going to even face Toronto for the third straight year here. So I think it's going to be a case where the Boston Bruins, with the way they've been playing, if late in the year here, I think they're going to be the ones that face the Bruins in the first round and lose. Because I just can't see Tampa Bay play the Florida Panther role here and be better. Either that or Florida gets the overall better advantage later in the year, and they end up beating Tampa Bay later on. But between Booner Jenner and Eric Goodbalden, who scored 2 minutes in the third period for Columbus, they kind of put that game away. They were reeling at that point. So that was just my takeaway from that game for last night. For Hurricanes and Rangers, Cyril scored a tie-breaking goal for the Rangers here that pretty much put the game away. Otherwise, Crater had a power play opening goal, then Javaris had a goal. Hurricanes dropped to 6-5. The Rangers are 8-2. Those are your two top teams right now in the East right now at this point. As far as them being competitive, the Panthers I'd put in that conversation as well, because right now, what are they, 5-3-1? They had an overtime loss to the Bruins. The Maple Leafs, they're an unknown commodity to me. So, but the Bruins last night, though, I thought were great last night. DeBrusk didn't. You got Matt Grzelcyk, he's out with an injury. Like I said before, Charlie McAvoy got a 4-game suspension. It was a dirty hit. Okay, many people may not like my opinion on this whole thing, but it was a dirty hit. They're trying to take away that out of the game at this point. He knew it was a dirty hit. He thought he was going to get away with it. He got a 4-game suspension. Bruins were able to outshut the Maple Leafs 40-35. There were 4 penalty minutes by both teams. Not much else to talk about really in that one, really, just besides that point. So that was the moral of the story here is the Bruins basically, in the end, were able to outplay the Maple Leafs here in the shootout here. Got 2 straight goals in the shootout period. They were able to get goals from the following here, which was Jake DeBrusk, who got the wrist shot, and Coyle had the wrist shot. And Austin Matthews in the end there could not get the victory in that one. So that's that. Let's see. Devils played a Wild last night. I'm just going to give you the cliff notes in this game here. Holtz, McLeod, Marrier, who had a power play goal, and made it 3-0 there. That was between the first and second period. Brett had a power play goal of his own. I think that was his only goal of the night. It was. And Hamilton had a power play goal last night. Rosie, Milton, and Kropsky had goals last night for the Wild, but they could not handle the Devils at home. And they're now 3-5-2, which means combined they're 3-7. But yeah, New Jersey, New York, and I would say right now the Bruins are your top teams right now, and maybe even Florida. It's debatable. Florida's still a tough team. I think they're a lot tougher than Toronto is right now at this point. Austin Matthews playing like an MVP. I don't think it really matters at this point if it's the team's not winning. So, and I think they're more. I don't think they're as serious as the Panthers are. I don't think they're serious as the Rangers or the Devils are, and I definitely don't think they're as serious as the Bruins are at this point. They're not even better than the Western Conference teams I just mentioned: the Canucks, the Kings, the Golden Knights, the Dallas Stars. I mean, there's too much horsepower there at this point, and it's kind of surprising at this point that Kraken aren't in that conversation, but they're not. So that to me is what the shocking thing is about this team is that they're not as strong this year as they were, which I kind of thought that it was a 50 minutes of fame kind of season for the Seattle Kraken. So the real thing came out at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they'll still be in the mix, I think, later on in the year. But I don't know. I just think that team at this point right now had their moment in the sun, and they'll probably just end up just being one and done once the season's over. Tonight you got the Flyers at the Sabres, and you got the Devils are at the Blues. Saturday night you have Predators and the Oilers on at 3. Sabres and Maple Leafs. The Bruins are in Detroit tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. You got the Hurricanes at the Islanders. Stars are at the Canucks. Avalanche are playing Las Vegas tomorrow night, playing the Golden Knights. And the Penguins at the Sharks. Winnipeg Jets are at the Phoenix Coyotes, and you have the Lightning at the Senators. Blue Jackets at the Capitals. Canadiens are at the Blues. Kings are at the Flyers. Florida Panthers are going to Chicago to take on Sidney Crosby 2.0, Connor Bedard. The New York Rangers are at the Minnesota Wild, and you have the Calgary Flames going to the Seattle Kraken. On Sunday, you have Golden Knights and the Ducks, and you have the Devils are at the Blackhawks. Anaheim, my thoughts on them are they're a team right now that's in there for now at this point. I don't think this team's for real. I think this team's a little soft. And I will say right now going forward here that the Anaheim Ducks will probably lose this game. And I would say lose that in a shutout here in a 5-0 shutout. The Devils will beat the Blackhawks. I mean, that's just a given. I don't think the Devils at this point are going to lose to this weak Chicago team at this point that's really being carried by Connor Bedard here. I hate to say it. As far as what Bedard is doing, it's pretty good. 6 points, 4 goals, 2 assists. It's not a lot, but it's enough to where it's like, okay, like it makes sense here. He's got 1 point per game, which I think he should get more of in this game in order to get, stay in balance here for a good rookie season. Perry so far is a -2, which isn't helping. Perry's got 4 assists though, which I'm still trying to figure out why he's a -2. But anyway, Jack Hughes is a -1. Doesn't really lead the team in plus minutes here, but he does lead the team in points, which is 20 points. He's got 5 goals, 15 assists. Bratt leads the team with goals with 7. So that should be interesting there going forward there with that. Van Keck is 5-2, and Sherrod is 1-0-1. I think Van Keck is expected to be the goaltender for Sunday's game. Otherwise, that's really the story here. The moral of the story is that the Blackhawks right now need to have Connor Bedard be more aggressive here. He was aggressive early. I mean, I don't know if it's him being phased out of the complete planning here, or they're just trying to tank for more players. I mean, I just can't see that being the moral of the story here. But I think Chicago needs to be competitive for this kid. They don't want to be in like 3 years of rebuilding here. It's got to be 1 or 2 here, and you got to be competitive. That's the way I see it. I mean, you don't want this kid to be feeling left out of the sun here. So, I mean, again, like it just to me, like that kid, you brought this kid in to be competitive. You did. And so far, he's living up to that portion. The problem is, it's the rest of the team at this point that's inexperienced or just too old, and it's holding the kid back. So that's to be expected here. Did I expect him at this point after 3.5 weeks of hockey here to only have 4 goals? I thought he would get at least 5 or 6 and more points. And I think I thought realistically he started out really well with that. Really since the Bruin game really in Boston, or not even the one in Boston, the one in Chicago. I don't think he really has been the same since that game. Because he's been really conservative. And I'm just surprised by this for a guy like that who's a first-round talent. First-rounders are not normally that conservative 3 weeks into the season. I know it's early, but again, like my thought is don't be as conservative. That's my takeaway in this whole thing. Don't be conservative in these games because it in the long run is going to hurt you. So that's the way I look at it. Let's see. We got to get into Craig Breslow's press conference, which I really didn't want to get into this press conference, but he was going on and on about it. People were going on and on about the story, really, and the idea at this point. Like, I mean, I don't normally not cover football right away on the show here, but I figured, you know what? I get in the Red Sox press conference news. I gotta type it in here and find the audio clip for it because I watch it back and it made me think used car salesman all day long, just because it just if I can get the audio of it on here, it'd be freaking nice. But I don't know. Here's the audio for it. I think I can get the audio. Here we go. Oh. This is from WMBR J9 ABC. Well, as soon as the ad is done playing. Kawabra.
The Red Sox finishing last place in the AL East this past season, which of course caused much frustration with the fans with the hiring of Craig Breslow as chief baseball officer. The front office has added someone who knows what it takes to win. He was a pitcher on the 2013 World Series team. Breslow spent 13 years in the majors. He's been in the Chicago Cubs front office for the last 5 seasons, holding down the role as assistant GM and VP of pitching in recent years. A fun fact for you, the Connecticut native graduated from Yale. It was once named the smartest man in baseball by the Wall Street Journal. Breslow hopes his many unique experiences help build a sustainable winner in Boston. He talked about his philosophy and how 2013 helped to develop that.
I think what 2013 told us above all else is, there's heavy lifting and incredible work to be done in the front office in terms of bringing players together and organizing a baseball operation. And then there's the opportunity to get more out of the group of players that's in the clubhouse every single day. And that's the responsibility of the entire organization.
So the work starts now for Breslow. He says he'll spend the next few weeks getting up to speed on things here in Boston. Reporting from Fenway.
So that wasn't the full press conference. I wasn't going to, subject myself to that full press conference, but just the idea to try to make it 2013 for this Red Sox team. Let's put it this way. Without Big Papi, without a designated hitter who's similar to Big Papi, you're not going to get that. He was let's be realistic here. He carried that entire team in 2013. There's no other debate besides that. None. 2013 was the year that David Ortiz carried that team single-handedly. And I got to say, it took a wear and toll on the guy. It really did. Like, for a while at that point in time, I thought this was it. I thought he was going to retire as champion right there and then in 2013. But that was the only reason why. And for Craig Breslow, I get it. He wants to put the stamp on it, saying the right things, but he's just a used car salesman who just happened to be the smartest person on the planet. That's all he is. He knows what to feed you people. So don't buy into his crap. This Red Sox team needs a lot of work done, but the problem is ownership is not willing to buy. They're not willing to put their money down on it at this point. They don't care. They've been done with it since Ortiz left. And if I'm going to be perfectly honest here at this point, they didn't really care about their World Series win they had in 2018. They just didn't. They knew they were in luxury tax hell. They were thinking in their minds, we won the World Series, but at what cost? At what cost? You just won a World Series 2 years after David Ortiz retired. You actually finally proved to people that you could win a World Series. You could have done it again in 2019. Instead, you were on your way and given Dave Dombrowski the pink slip. And here in this case right now, you got Craig Breslow at this point, who I don't know if it's going to be like Shine Blue. If he's willing to spend, I'll change my tune. But if he's not willing to spend here, if he's not willing to get the owners to get their money and take out their pockets, if he's not willing to be the guy that says, hey, we need to do this, then they're not going to do anything. I'm sorry, they're not going to do anything. They brought players in, and they spent money on the players at this point that aren't worth the money, but you really didn't break the bank. You need to break the bank in order to make some kind of a move or something that would just make a lot of sense. And right now, they're not making any sense at this point. They're not doing it. They could have kept Mookie Betts. You could have kept Xander Bogaerts. You could have gotten Marshall Yashada. You could have kept a lot of talent around you. And instead, you just go and say, screw it. You don't have a bullpen. You could have kept Craig Kimbrell. That right there is a perfect good example. Craig Kimbrell, who's still playing at a high level at this point, did a lot better than Jensen, who, by the way, at this point right now, loses himself every week. I don't want that guy to be my closer. I want the guy to be the second in command behind the actual closer, because that's what he is at the stage of his career. He's nothing other than that. I'm sorry. That's the way I see it. So I don't want people to come at me with this whole thing that they've got the answer. They don't have jack shit. They don't have it. And just the idea at this point that this guy is going to come in here, he's selling you a bunch of nonsense is what he's selling you at this point. A bunch of nonsense. You got Rafael Devers there for a long-term deal. That's the only thing that they've accomplished. That was never a Chine Bloom move, by the way, either. That was surprisingly a John Henry move, so people would stop bitching at him. That's all that was. It wasn't to make the Red Sox fans happy and to build long-term. They have no long-term plan. Hell, they don't even have a short-term plan. Their short-term plan is the revolving pink slipping. That's all they have. All they have is pink slips with your name on at this point in time, and they're going to keep it in their offices on this date. Mark it down right now, November 3rd, 2023. I guarantee right now there's a pink slip with Craig Breslow's name on it at this point. That's going to be laying in that guy's office now for a long while. They're not going to bother with this team, and they refuse to sell because, quite frankly, they could care less. All they care about right now is going to a Pittsburgh Penguin game, watching Sidney Crosby, in their mind, still be the face of NHL when they have no freaking idea that he's not even the face at all anymore. Yes, he's still playing at a high level, but is it at a high level for an all-star caliber first-round player? Sure, if it's at that point of 2007. But in reality, it's Leon Draisaitl. It's Austin Matthews. Get in that trade instead of watching teams at this point that could care less. They all got their success. They're only there for the money. They're only there for the after parties. That's all they're there for. They don't care about championship wins. They don't care about breaking the luxury tax threshold. They do not care unless it's for their star player that they can kiss his ass for. Because if Sidney Crosby wasn't there, would really the Red Sox ownership really care? No. And people wonder why I wanted Sidney Crosby to get traded. I wanted them to stop focusing on outside sports because that's their problem. They don't focus on anything else. I bet Craig Breslow right now at this point is going to be a guy that focuses just on baseball. He doesn't care what goes on in the NFL. He doesn't care what goes on in the NHL. He doesn't care what goes on in the stupid NBA season tournament. He doesn't even care about college basketball. Nobody in that organization right now deserves to own two sports. They don't. They don't deserve it. They've shown right now that they do nothing. They're just partners that make more money. Unless they're cash poor with the pandemic, and that's the only reason why they did this. But here's my opinion on this whole thing. If you want people to start believing in your hype again, don't be too involved in NHL this offseason. Get yourself out of that predicament pretty quickly here. If you want to be part of the Red Sox organization for real at this point, you got to start now on November 3rd. You got to start now on November 3rd. Otherwise, I can't believe in this team. I can't believe in the Red Sox this next season. I don't want to get into the deep, there's going to be a 78-84 team every year shtick and do nothing in the trade deadline and be sellers and be guys who want to do something in the offseason. Make some statements. Make some moves. Do something that makes the most sense. You need a first baseman? Go get one. You need a third baseman? Go get one. You want Devers to be a DH? Make him a DH. Do something. You want Brian Bella to be a Pedro Martinez and make him a Cy Young Award winner? Stop working on it now. Start throwing pitches in the winter. Start throwing pitches in the summer. Start throwing pitches do a lot. Okay. If you want a bullpen, go get bullpen players. You got until February 28th of 2024 to really make me think that you can actually get something going within this organization. Otherwise, I can't be bothered with you anymore. I don't want to waste my time. That's the way I look at it. Because right now, as a Red Sox fan, you are wasting my time. And I'm a man that does not like his time wasted. I'm Italian. So you should probably know this by now. No Italian person is patient. They're just not. It's not in our genes. It's not in our blood. It's not. You got to understand this right now as me, as an Italian person from Rhode Island who's been raised who started as a Yankee fan, transitioned himself to a Red Sox fan, almost transitioned back to a Yankee fan. I'm not a patient sports fan that wants to see a bunch of crap. I want to see real shit play out. And if you're not willing to give me that for 6 months, in April to October into November, don't waste my time. That's it. That's how I look at this. What Craig Breslow is giving you right now is a bunch of noise. He's giving you what he did in 2013. Dude, it ain't 2013 and you ain't a player no more. Unless you're going to go out there and be the closer for the team, I suggest you keep your mouth shut and make yourself and find yourself a Craig Breslow. That's what I would do. Otherwise, don't waste my time. That's all. That's it. That's all I got for that take. I mean, that's it. It just, there's no other way of justifying it, really. There really is no other way. So, that's that. Time for your Week 9 NFL predictions / Week 10 of NCAA football predictions. I'm going to start off with the NFL first and start off, well, so far, I might as well give you the Titans-Steelers highlights as well in this game from last night. Will Levis last night, 22 for 39, 262 yards, 1 interception. Came up short, very short. Pittsburgh was very lucky to win this game last night. I'm sorry, but they were. Najee Harris got a 10-yard touchdown run early in the first quarter. It was a nice drive by the Steelers there. Second quarter, it was 7-3. Derrick Henry, he gets in the end zone on a 2-yard run. Makes it 10-7. Boswell gets a field goal there. Full kicked a field goal at the end of the half, made it 13-10. Later on 11-play, 92-yard drive, Kenny Pickett seals the deal with a touchdown pass. Steelers get the win 20-16. Derrick Henry in the game had 17 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins in the game. Not as smooth as he was last week. He only had 4 catches for 60 yards. Kyle Phillips had 4 catches for 68. Chris Moore had 1 catch for 29 yards. Derrick Henry had 3 catches for 27. Really not really a lot to speak of here in this game. Tennessee could have done more in the game to really drive the point home, but they just didn't. Kenny Pickett in this game, 19 for 30, 160, 1 touchdown, no interceptions here. Najee Harris had 69 yards on the ground on 16 carries with 1 touchdown there. Judson had 7 catches for 90 yards. Warren had 3 catches for 25. Connor Hayward had 2 catches for 16 yards. Allen Robinson the second had 1 catch for 10. Darnell Washington had 1 catch for 7. I guess Pickett had 2 catches for -1. I apologize. I got to charge my phone now again. Not sure what the hell happened to the plug. Oh, there it is. So, I got to plug this in. Turn up my brightness of my phone up a little bit here. Otherwise, I would say last night, the only interception they really had last night was K1 Alexander late in the game. Not really much else to speak of here. Will Levis didn't really make a lot of mistakes other than that late interception late in the game. Steelers had a 10-play, 78-yard drive. Pickett had a 10-yard throw to Allen Robinson at one point. He had a throw to Warren for 9 yards. Was really throwing the ball a lot here. Not really much else to speak of here in this one here. You had big drives down the field, and Tennessee was just conservative on their drives. That was really about it. They had a chance to get Levis was sacked by T.J. Watt, which set up the field goal on that one there. They had the touchdown drive was 11 plays there. You had Derrick Henry, who did most of the running, but he had a 23-yard pass to Paul Skoronski. You had a couple more Derrick Henry runs, and you had a run on the move by Henry again. A lot of runs by Henry on this drive. Simmons was in there in the block to get in the red zone for Henry. There was an 11 plays, 73-yard drive there. A lot of big drives by the Titans right now, but just not really finishing up what they needed to do. They tried going for it on 4th down, couldn't get it. That was after the Pittsburgh Steelers drive there. The Steelers had a punt, and then the interception was a 12-play, 66-yard drive. So this is the drive here from Levis. 11-yard play to Oronko. After Levis was sacked for back in the backfield by Alex Highsmith. Went for it on 4th down. Porter got a call for a defensive holding. Levis threw an incomplete pass. Then he threw a 29-yard pass to Moore. And then Levis threw a 12-yard pass to Okorono to get down to the Pittsburgh 24. Then Levis on 3rd and 5. K1 Alexander gets the pick there, and that pretty much ended the game there. So It was a strong drive. They just couldn't finish it off with a touchdown. And Levis was trying to force it in there. Rookie mistake. It happens. It pretty much sealed the deal there at that point in time anyway. So that was that. Now it's time for our predictions for the weekend. And it goes as follows here. Dolphins, Chiefs, 9:30 in Germany. The Kansas City Chiefs were complaining about the trip to Frankfurt. This is 1 and 2 Frankfurt games. We got the Patriots next week playing against the Colts. This week is Dolphins, Chiefs. And this is going to be the game of the week by far, other than the Eagles Cowboys that's coming out at 4:25 on Sunday. This one here, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins to go into Frankfurt and pull off the win against Kansas City. Right now, the Taylor Swift effect could be a thing. They haven't lost a game with Taylor Swift at the game. This is their toughest challenge yet. I think Miami now at full health right now with Jalen Ramsey is going to be a difference maker there. I think having him shut down Travis Kelce here will be the moral of the story here. I think realistically the Miami Dolphins just have what it takes at this point to compete with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are really under that crappy loss they had the week prior to Denver, which ended that 16-game winning streak they had over Denver. I think this is a case right now where Kansas City loses 2 straight here. I think the moral of the story here is that the Miami Dolphins have got the better team. They have the better offense right now. I don't think they have the secondary that can shut down Waddle and shut down Tyreek Hill. I don't. I think Tyreek Hill is gonna have a game where he gets 2 touchdown receptions. I think that Kansas City is held to under 20 points in this game, and I think Miami just scores. I would say Miami scores is a 1-touchdown win. I don't think this is gonna be like a blowout kind of game. But I want to see Kansas City held to 13 points here. And I think that's what we're going to see here. I think we're going to see Mahomes struggle in this one here. This is not the same Kansas City Chiefs team we used to know here. And it's fine taking a hit on this team. It's definitely a Super Bowl hangover for sure. There's no question about it. You add in the Taylor Swift stuff right now, there's a lot of hype behind it. That's fine. But to me, you could argue right now Taylor Swift's not the reason why Kansas City is 6-2. They're 6-2. Because they're not taking teams seriously. I think they're going to take Miami very seriously here. The problem is Miami won't at this point, but they're not going to do it in a way where they're going to be cocky about it, and they're going to, they're going to take you seriously, but they're going to make you bow down to them. That's the difference there. And I think they have the team that can do it. Guys with Bradley Chubb, Kristen Wilkinson. You got Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Eli Apple. Okay, that secondary. I don't think they're going to triple team Kelce and everyone else is going to get wide open here. And if that's the game plan there, that's stupid. So I don't think they're going to go into that game plan mode here. But I will say realistically here, I got the Miami Dolphins going into Kansas City, beating the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. And I truly do believe this. I do. I think the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, and I want to be a believer in this team. I do. So this is the way I see it. I think the Kansas City Chiefs will go on the road. They will then go to Frankfurt here and come up short here. I think this is going to be one of those games where Mahomes does throw 2 picks here. I think he throws an interception to Jalen Ramsey. He throws one to Eli Apple. You could even argue right now he throws a third. And I think this will be the real sealer here to Wilkins. I think it's going to be one of those things where he drives down the field right now and Wilkins gets an interception himself and seals the deal there. I think he gets 2 sacks in Mahomes. I think that's the moral of the story now. He stuffs the run because he's a good run stuffer as well, along with Bradley Chubb. Dolphins get to win 20-13 in my opinion. Like I said, I think Tua has a good game. I think it's going to be one of those games where I think Tua throws for 3 touchdowns. He kind of outplays Mahomes a little bit. I don't think Mahomes throws a touchdown at all in this game. I think the only way they get touchdowns in this game is by little runs by McCall Hardman. That's it. I think this defense has got this Kansas City Chiefs team on lockdown. You talk about the wear and tear and travel, and they're already complaining already. And they're still complaining about it to this day. And Tyreek Hill is just all excited about facing Kansas City again. And you kind of look at the Chris Jones scenario here at this point. I think he's a little agitated they didn't get Frank Clark in a trade or get Tyrann Mathieu back in a trade because there's a lot of trade rumors about that. A lot of anger at this point, a lot of distractions here. And the way I see it, it's not Tyreek Hill coming off as cocky. It's more like the Kansas City Chiefs came off even more cockier. And I wouldn't even come off as cocky here and blow by the fact right now that you just lost at Denver by 15 points last week. You didn't get a single touchdown this week. I think that streak continues. It's going to be a short streak, though. I think this is going to be 2 weeks right now where you don't get an offensive touchdown from Patrick Mahomes. There could be a case right now where this could be held to 4 field goals by Harrison Buckner and made this a 20-12 game. And I'm not just saying this to be cocky and, try to put this crusade and be a leader in following in the Miami Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are the real deal this year. This is not me being a fanboy of this stuff because, believe me, I want to see Buffalo win a Super Bowl championship. I do. And I'm a Patriot fan, and I would rather see the Buffalo Bills win a championship than the Patriots actually trying to make people believe that they're for real. I mean, that's just me being a guy that just tells you straight to your face. I don't think the Patriots are for real. I think the Buffalo Bills are. But the difference is Miami they've got their shit straight. Kansas City doesn't really have that. And right now, between the loss they suffered last week, the wide receivers complaining about like Martin Valdez scandal, who, by the way, had a fumble in that Denver game, and him not being the real deal wide receiver that we all thought him to be, and the Juju Smith-Schuster effect of him not being on this team is kind of a key difference maker here. Without him, he's not really the guy. He was going to be the one that would be the Juju Smith-Schuster. And instead, he's not that guy. And this could be another question during the offseason at this point. And I don't want to get into that deep with that momentum at that point with this take here. But could this be a case where they just let this guy go because he's not delivering the goods? And if you're Kansas City, do you get another wide receiver here? You just lost Justin Ross. He's not going to be playing going forward for the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. You don't want to be in a role right now where you're going to have second thoughts about this guy at wide receiver here. You're already low at wide receiver. Kadarius Toney, not really delivering as much this season. I don't think he really has had what it takes here up to this point to make anything happen. Marcel Harmon, his return game at this point, didn't do anything the next game. Now you're going to go from that game to the Dolphins here, and all of a sudden it's going to be a completely different story here? I don't think it is. There's something brewing right now in Kansas City. Not saying they're going to be missing the playoffs or anything like that, because I wouldn't make that prediction again, because that was a dumb take on my part. I take full responsibility for that stupid take here. But I'd say right now, the Kansas City Chiefs will lose this weekend either 20-13 or 20-12. Either with no touchdowns thrown by the offense at all in this game, and no rushing touchdowns at all, and they're just held to 4 field goals, or you get 2 rushing touchdowns by Marcel Harmon. Because right now, out of that, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, not delivering. Kadarius Toney in the run game, not delivering. And we thought that, and that was exposed back in week 1 when they faced Detroit. So I think Kansas City right now, you could look to Taylor Swift and say that that's the reasoning here. I wouldn't use that as a reasoning at this point, but Andy Reid is a lot better than coaching. And right now, he's going to get out coached by Mike McDaniel. That's it. He's one of the coolest head coaches right now in the NFL. He's one of the best head coaches right now in the NFL. I think this guy, realistically, who's been around football for years, who's known the game of football, who's been around Kyle and Mike Shanahan, who's been around John Elway, he knows his stuff. And he knows all the distractions, the media tech. Like, he knows it. He gets it. This is a guy who knows his stuff. And I think a lot of people should pay attention to how this guy coaches and how he's respected in the game. And I got to be honest here. That 9-8 season that year was not his fault. And the Dolphins know it. And if they let this guy go, if they somehow be one done in the playoffs here, 2 straight seasons, I don't know if they're going to get any momentum like that ever again. Which is why it's the here and now when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. Even if they lose the Super Bowl here, I think that you could make a case right now at this point if they lose the Super Bowl and they fire Mike McDaniel. That would be the dumbest move since the Jimmy Johnson firing in Dallas and the Herschel Walker trade. One of the 2 dumbest things that ever happened in NFL history. So, in my opinion here, Miami gets this win here. It's continued momentum, but it's the doing your job kind of thing and not over-celebrating and completely forgetting about the rest of the season. This is not the Super Bowl type of matchup here. This is determining your shot into greatness into contendingship, into making some noise. They competed against the Philadelphia Eagles. They came up short in that game. I get it. The offense only scored 10 points in that game. Again, I get it. That Philly defense was for real. And hold on a second. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. Oh. 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 I really hope to God I'm not getting a cold again. I really hope to God I'm not. I just had to blow my nose just now because that was a stuffed up nose. I mean, you don't want to talk about getting that gunk out of your nose quickly. Jesus. Anyway, so my takeaway on this one here is this, and I think this is like my way of pointing this out. The one thing that I think people should look into going forward here is this, and this is the following here. The Miami Dolphins, are they for real? That's the question. That's the $1 million question at this point. Are they for real? You know, are they the team right now at this point that's going to make a lot of noise? And again, like that's just my take. It's a who knows kind of story. It really is. I want to say it right now. Just want to get that point across. The Miami Dolphins at this point, and I'm just basing off on this fact right now, at this point of this making a lot of sense here. The Dolphins now at this point, and I'm just calling like I see it here. I really am. They are a real serious threat to the Chiefs. They're the biggest threat right now to the Kansas City Chiefs right now than the Buffalo Bills and the Bengals. Tua's playing at an MVP level. That's not going to stop. The way they protected Tua all year long, this is the best offensive line Tua has in his days in Alabama. Mike McDaniel is a real deal head coach here. I think he's going to be the one who out coaches the great Andy Reid, which is why I'm picking Miami to win this game. So that's that. The Seattle Seahawks are taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 6-2. Seahawks are 5-2. This is a real testament here for Seattle here. The last time I picked against the Ravens at home, well, they just completely exposed me. So I'm not going to make that same mistake again. I think the Ravens get the win. Lamar Jackson is too good. I think the difference key here is Mark Andrews versus Bobby Wagner and versus Reese Witherspoon. Between those two names I just mentioned, Reese Witherspoon knows that he is your best target. Odell Beckham Jr., who's had his episode at this point that maybe Kim Kardashian left him, and maybe he had a bad game and that wasn't a really good game on his part. Odell might have a breakout game. I don't know. I don't think he's going to come back next year. I don't think he's going to because the way this has gone down for him at this point, why would he? He's been a complete afterthought. I got the Ravens winning this game, and the key match is going to be Reese Witherspoon and Wagner versus Mark Andrews. And I'm not sure – the reason I say it because of who's that quarterback, Lamar Jackson, because he could make a critical mistake here and throw a pick to either Wagner or Reese Witherspoon. And that Raven offensive line has been great this year. They're going up against a really tough Seattle defense. So I think this game will be a lot closer, though. I think the Ravens win by a field goal. Clutch Justin Tucker field goal kick could go into overtime. I got the Ravens winning this one big here at home by a field goal here. Winning, and when I say by winning big, I mean winning and making a statement and going 7-2. So that's just my pick in that game. And it's going to be a big win because it's going to be against a real legit Seattle Seahawks team that just took first place in the NFC West. But for how long? Who knows? They're going to be in first place going to that game next week, though, when the 49ers play the Jaguars. So that's one way of looking at it, really. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are taking on the Houston Texans. Texans are 3-point favorites. I'm not sure who to pick in this game here because realistically here, it's either Baker Mayfield shows up in this game or it's C.J. Stroud who wants to prove everybody wrong. And so far, they haven't lost at home since September against, ironically, a game they probably should have won, which was against the Indianapolis Colts and Anthony Richardson. So that's just me. They're 3-4. I think they are frauds, though, because I think at this point, this is one of those games that come up and does happen here. But the thing of it is, Houston's 3-point favorites. And the last time I picked against Houston to win, I lost. The last time I picked them to lose, I lost. It's a tough one because it's C.J. Stroud. It's an Ohio State Buckeye quarterback. Of course, I got to go with OHIO. Tampa Bay's got a great defense. I mean, they had some up and down years of this season so far. The game against Buffalo, they kind of get exposed a little bit here. Does Stroud have that same ability to expose this defense? Again, I don't know. I will say this, though. They had one Hail Mary last week that failed. And I don't think it's going to come down to that fact. But in this case here, they're in Houston. I mean, if this is at home, I'd say there's an obvious pick in Tampa Bay's favor, which I don't think Tampa Bay are roadrunners this year. So I got to go with the Houston Texans. I have to. I think they're going to go 4-4. At this point, I mean, that AFC South right now, as far as playoff spoilers, a playoff picture goes, it's going to be an interesting race in the end there between them and Tennessee. So that's my one takeaway from that whole thing, really. That and Tampa Bay is just not for real. I don't think they are anymore. LA Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. That's on this Sunday. Rams are dealing with the quarterback uncertainty at this point right now with what happened with Matthew Stafford last weekend. How he jammed his thumb in the game against the Dallas Cowboys on his throwing hand, so they're not even sure if he'll be playing in the game. Brett Ripken had to finish the rest of the game last week. So far, injury news, we have questionables right now from Stafford, Puka, Ernest Jones, Kobe Durant, and Laurel Murchison. Aaron Jones practiced this week, so he should be good. Jair Alexander, he should be good this week. Rudy Ford should be good. That could all change, though. And this is going to be a case where Matthew Stafford doesn't play in the game. But here's the thing. I don't trust that Packer offense at all, even without Matthew Stafford playing in the actual game for the other team. I trust Aaron Donald to get into Jordan Love's face and sack him 2 times, maybe even 3. And I expect 4 or 5 sacks in Jordan Love within the first half and then giving up 3 more after that one. I see this being an 8-sack game by the Rams defense. You want a breakout game here to get yourself back in the playoff conversation this one, even though this one would only let you be 1 game below 500. This is a game to do it in. Right time, right opportunity here. I'm taking the LA Rams on the road in Lambeau Field. And this is not going to be one of those games where it's going to be convincing. It's going to take a lot for me to believe in this team. So with that in mind, I truly do believe this, the LA Rams will beat the Packers by a score of 13-0. That is my prediction for the score of this game, 13-0. They will shut out the Green Bay Packers. Washington Commanders are at the New England Patriots. Patriots are at home. No Montez Sweat. He's now the Chicago Bears. No Chase Young. He's with the San Francisco 49ers. That is a loaded up. It's set up for a 49ers-Eagles NFC title game or Dallas and San Francisco. There's no other way of pointing it out obvious than that. Unless somehow that it's the Lions and the 49ers. It's the Lions and Cowboys, Lions and Eagles. Those are your 3 potential or 5 or 6 potential matchups you're going to get. But 3 teams that are going to well clinch their divisions. Maybe 4. Because there's still teams that are running. There really are. Commanders aren't really one of them, obviously, at this point. Or they still could be. They played really competitive against the Philadelphia Eagles last week, and they should have won. They should have won. They outplayed Philadelphia twice. And they only lost by 3 points. They're going to New England. I don't know how the hell New England's favored in this game. I know they took away two of your best defensive pieces here. Washington still got a great forefront here, which I don't get why they don't look at that way. But I look at I know the offensive line has a lot of sacks this year, but you take away your sack pieces, and it's not the same. I mean, I don't understand how. And I look at that offensive line. I mean, it could be a difference maker in this game, but I don't know. And I am a Patriot fan. I'm just being realistic here. I don't believe in Mac Jones right now at this point at quarterback. I don't. And I know they're going to look at this and they're going to say, "Oh, it's a win. Back to the path to the playoffs. We have a soft schedule after this. We have the Colts after this. Then we have the Giants." I don't want to hear it. The reality is you don't have a quarterback that believes in himself. And you don't have a quarterback that believes in the team that he's playing on. And you just lost your best wide receiver to a torn ACL who's done for the year. I'm not a believer. Sorry, I'm just not a believer at this point. So Sam Howell's going to have a big game. I look at that secondary overall, and I say to myself, without Christian Gonzalez in that game, it makes no difference. They're still soft in a defensive presence game. I mean, if Duggar had a big game, that's the only way they win this game. I just can't see him having back-to-back big games like this. It's not consistent. He's really been consistently either conservative or not as aggressive. Not saying that he flat out sucks in every game, but it's that conservative conversation. It's just, it is what it is. So here in this case here in New England, with everything on the line, Washington Commanders, Patriots, I'm going to go, and I got to just come out and flat out just say it here. The Commanders will lose this game if and only if Mac Jones gets pulled in the second quarter. That's one take right there. And they put Zappy in that game. But if Mac Jones plays an entire fourth quarter, I think the Commanders get the win. I'm sorry. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. They lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, a crappy franchise. And I just mentioned this yesterday. That they're now considered the Las Vegas Raiders here. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go, in this case here, and this is a toss-up for me, I'm going to go with the Patriots here to lose this weekend against the Washington Commanders here. But it won't be as bad. It will be like a 17-13 loss. I think Mac Jones throws for 2 picks in this game. I don't really think he even throws for a touchdown in this game. And it'll be like 2 touchdown runs by Ezekiel Elliott. And Chad Ryan will miss like 2 extra points. That's the way I look at it. I think Sam Howell throws a game-winning touchdown to Trey McLaurin. I think he gets all 2 touchdowns to win the game. That's the moral of the story. Who's your breakout star from both teams? It's Trey McLaurin and it's Ezekiel Elliott. So there you go. Cardinals and Browns are playing on Sunday afternoon. No Joshua Dobbs, which means it'll be Clayton Tune. That'll be the starting quarterback for the Cardinals. I don't know how the hell the spread's only just at 7 points in this game. I know what people are thinking. They just traded Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Detroit Lions. I get that. But it's not like this guy. It's not like Clayton Tune is like a Tom Brady in the making here as a rookie. He sucks. Kyler Murray, I don't think he's expected to play this week. I mean, I don't think they've really even named a starting quarterback this week. The status for Murray and Watson are unknown. Maybe they only name it this because they figured, well, Kyler Murray might be playing this weekend. I think if Kyler Murray does play this weekend here, though, I think it's still a loss regardless because I think the Cleveland Browns just have a stronger defense. So I think the fact that you have P.J. Walker versus Kyler Murray possibly is a matchup right now for Week 9. It's interesting because, yeah, the records are meh for both teams because Browns are 4-3. It's like they should be 5-2. I'd be more excited if that was the case, but it's not the case. So, with that in mind, I'm taking the Cleveland Browns over the Arizona Cardinals, regardless if Clinton Tune plays, regardless if Kyler Murray plays, or if Cliff Kingsbury comes out of retirement and plays quarterback. It doesn't matter. Jim Schwartz has got the answer defensively. They've got the defense that can make some noise. Myles Garrett is a monster, and that defense is too much with Darius Smith and Garrett together. And if you want to add Javanian and Clowney back in this team, if you want to bring him back here, that's a three-headed monster at this point that people would not want to play against. And then doghouse mentality there, I think Arizona's got what it takes to win there. Sorry, I don't think they do. That's just my take. Chicago Bears are at the New Orleans Saints. Tyson Bagent looks like he's going to be the starter again this weekend. Derek Carr, of course, is going to be playing here. I don't know what the story is right now with Justin Fields. He's been ruled questionable here. If he is playing, though, or they bring in Tyson Bagent, it really doesn't matter. The Saints get the win. They're in New Orleans. They're not going to go into New Orleans and beat the Saints. Saints are 8.5-point favorites. They're going to blow this team out of the water. Sorry. 34-7. Saints get the win. By the way, Browns going to win over the Cardinals 28-0. Regardless if Kyler Murray starts or not. Because you're going to get a rusty quarterback regardless from both teams. So, that's that. Vikings and Falcons. No Desmond Ridder. Ridiculed on the bench at this point. Taking this to heart. I think in this case here, the Vikings will start Jaren Hall, the rookie out of BYU. If they start Joshua Dobbs, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference here. There's been no plan yet at this point of who they're going to start right now. Kirk Cousins is done for the year, obviously. Chris Reed might be done for the year as well, I believe. I'm not sure what his story is. Grady Jarrett out for the year. LaCale London on IR. Drake London might be questionable here. Falcons are all banged up as it is. But if they start Jaren Hall, I think the Vikings win this game. And I think they will start Jaren Hall here. I don't think they're going to start Joshua Dobbs. No offense. They've seen Dobbs play. They only brought Dobbs in for an extra bench warming spot next to Kirk Cousins on the sideline when they talk strategy for 2024. For him, not for Jaren Hall. And Jaren Hall is going to blow them away. So I believe the Vikings will get the win there. I think he delivers on 3 touchdowns thrown. 1 rushing by Alexander Madison here. 1 pick 6 by Harrison Smith. Heineke comes off rusty here. I think the Vikings get the upset win in Atlanta. They get to win 35-17 over the Atlanta Falcons. The New York Football Giants are taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, or I should say here in this case here right now, Mark Davis's dummies. And one big dummy himself, who'll be watching the game from the VIP box, and Mark Davis, he'll watch his Raiders lose again. I think the Giants will go in there and they'll beat the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think the Giants really, you're going to get Daniel Jones at full health here. This may be a start of a run here, of a rally. And I don't know what it is, but I just trust the Giants more than I trust the Washington Commanders to make some kind of a run. I know what people are thinking, Daniel Jones has got 2 touchdowns, 6 picks. Here's the thing. I think if you have Jones only throw 12 times in this game and have Saquon Barkley run down the throat of that Raiders defense, that's the moral of the story. You make Barkley run the ball more. You have him carry this team. I know what people are thinking. Darren Waller being out at this point, does that cause this team to have disadvantage? It doesn't matter. Because one way of looking at this right now, there's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser. Right now, the Raiders are the biggest losers right now in the NFL. There are more losers right now on that franchise than the entire New England Patriots system combined. There are a bunch of losers. Josh Jacobs is the biggest loser of them all at this point. He got cheaped out of a 1-year deal that he would have gotten paid if he was on the franchise tag. And right now, I don't even think he even earned that money. You look at Devontae Adams, who wanted to get traded out of Las Vegas in the first place. Again, he's a loser because he just sat there and bitched and complained instead the entire time, and nobody wanted to hear him. And that's why nobody called up for him. And the fact that Mark Davis, they'd rather laugh at him at this point than give him a trade package that would have made a lot more sense. But Mark Davis is the biggest idiot out there. And I got to say, realistically, he's more of an idiot. He's become Dan Snyder. If there's one way of looking at this, Mark Davis has taken the soul from Dan Snyder and put him in himself. That's how stupid he is. firing everybody who got you in a really great position, and you botch it yourself, and you listen to Tom Brady, who's got some deep feelings probably involved in this whole thing that involves McDaniels, that involves Jimmy Garoppolo. He never believed in Derek Carr. He thought he was a bitch. I think Devontae Adams should be pissed at Tom Brady just for that. And think about this for a minute. This is a guy that wants to quit on Tom Brady, who's a minority owner, who's willing to go back out of retirement and play football for Devontae Adams. Nope. You want to talk about a loser franchise at this point? That is a loser franchise right there in a nutshell here. It's going to lose to another loser franchise. But the difference is they're going to turn into winners pretty damn quickly because they got the roster, even without Darren Waller playing. They have got the talent on that team that can outplay the Raiders all day long. Aiden O'Connell's their starting quarterback. He's okay at best. That's it. Josh McDaniels calling him a preseason darling. He's kind of right. You know, he didn't put up that impressive numbers. He's not that impressive altogether. He's just part of a loser franchise at this point that everyone's quitting on, even the owner. And you know something at this point right now? That's why and really, here's another real case at this point. Brian Harvey put in that freaking situation there. Think about it this way. You put Brian Hoyer in this game this weekend here, the Giants blow you out by a lot. You put Aiden O'Connell there, at least you make it competitive. That's all I can say about this, really. It's going to be competitive either way because it's going to be the entire Giant offense versus Aiden O'Connell. The fate of the Raiders is in Aiden O'Connell's hands here. And unfortunately, he's going to come up short in this game. That's how you got to look at it. Colts-Panthers, you got the Frank Reich return game. I mean, realistically at this point, they're not going to be in Indy, but he'll be coaching against the Indianapolis Colts. The difference is he has no power going into this game. And you're going there against a tough Indy defense. Carolina at home, Bryce Young, you know, the fate's in Bryce Young's hands. He was injured. He missed 2 games, and he's been decent at best. He had a miracle win last week against the Houston Texans, which is why I called them frauds in the first place, because this franchise is just as bad as the Patriots and the Raiders combined. They're all bad. In this case here for Bryce Young, he's got 1,202 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's better than Gardner Minshew, right? So, in this case here, this will be the proven point for both defenses. This will be a defensive battle here between the Colts and the Panthers. There's not going to be any high-scoring affair here in this game. So, Bryce Young, he'll throw for 2 touchdowns. It'll be a 21-14 win for the Panthers. That's how you got to look at this game here. An upset win in Carolina. So, I think Bryce Young gets his 9th touchdown this season. I think Minshew gets his 9th touchdown this year as well. But the way I look at it, Indianapolis, Frank Reich's, revenge game here is more really the more likely thing that's going to happen here going forward here than anything else. So, Carolina gets the W there. They get the upset win over the Colts. Now, Dallas Cowboys, they go to Philadelphia for their first of 2 in their series. Eagles are 3-point favorites. We know right now, as far as injury goes, there's not really a lot of injury to report on, really. Tyron Smith named questionable with a neck issue. Bradley Roby questionable. Jack Stoll questionable. Milton Williams questionable. And Cam Jurgens on the IR for Philadelphia. At home, Philadelphia was dominant last year. They beat Cooper Rush last year. They didn't beat Dak Prescott last year. Hurts is more under pressure in this game than Dak, just because Dak Prescott knows in his mind that he can beat Philadelphia at any time. Dak will show and put on a spectacle for everybody against this Philadelphia defense. I know this for a fact. This is going to be one of those games here where I think this is going to be a lot of pressure for Jalen Hurts here, which I think in Jalen Hurts in certain pressure situations, he's been really on spaghetti legs at this point and has had spaghetti arm moments with his interceptions that he's thrown. In this case here, for Dallas to make a statement here, for Micah Parsons to make a statement here, it's going to be Micah Parsons versus Jalen Carter here. He definitely outplays Jalen Carter by a mile. There's not a doubt about that in my mind. Darius Slade Jr., I don't think he can shut down CD Lamb a lot in this game. I don't. I think Michael Gallup on the other side is going to be much of an issue as well. Philadelphia's a little banged up defensively. I think this weekend they go into Philadelphia. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They go 6-2, and they don't reclaim the division lead because they would only be a half a game back. But this is going to be a start of something interesting here for Dallas and Philadelphia going forward within their rivalry going forward. I think Dak has a big game. I think if Philadelphia's defense was, in my opinion, here's the thing that really gets me. Defensively, if Philadelphia really wasn't the key story wasn't really in this scenario here, AJ Brown here versus Stephon Gilmore, I think that would be the story here. That's not the story here. The story here is Philly's defense versus Dallas's offense. And I think AJ Brown still has his record and he puts up regardless. I think he goes 7 straight games with 125 yards. But that's the rest. That's the theory to me, is that I think he gets that record still. However, I think Dak Prescott and that Dallas offense is going to hang all day long, and Philadelphia is going to be completely burnt out by towards the fourth quarter. And so I look at that and I say Dallas is going to get that win. They're going to go into Philadelphia, and they're going to pull out the biggest win they've had in a long time. They are. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles will lose this Sunday at home to Dallas, because you're going to have Dak Prescott, you're going to have Micah Parsons, you're going to have Stephon Gilmore, you're going to have Durant Bland. Durant Bland and Stephon Gilmore, they're sharks, and they smell blood in the water. So, and Jalen Hurts at this point against Dallas at this point, he hasn't looked that great against them. In fact, in his 4 games he did play, I think they got swept, what was it, back in 2021, I think, was it at that point? So he's 1-3 against the Dallas Cowboys lifetime. So this will be a case here even with AJ Brown. Yes, even with AJ Brown, I don't think you're going to get a win here in this case here. You're still going to get the yards. You're still going to put out those stats. But otherwise, I think Philadelphia is going to have a hard time really against this Dallas defense. And Dallas is going to have a hard time against them too. But it's going to be a field goal win. I think it'll be 30-27. I think Jalen Hurts will throw at least for 2 or 3 touchdowns in the game. Dak's going to throw for 4. I think it really comes down to Dak and a big drive in the end of the game. That will really seal the deal at that point in time. Sunday Night Football on NBC. It's the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, the biggest game of the week. You got 3 big games, one at 9:30, one at 4:25, and one at 8:20. You could argue right now this will be the second best game behind the Dolphins-Chiefs game and the Cowboys-Eagles. You could go either way with that one. But it's Buffalo's struggling offense right now. It's DeMar Hamlin's return game to Cincinnati here. There's a lot of factors that go into that. I think realistically here, you could argue there. Because again, there's just a lot to get into there with that whole thing. And again, many people could argue that this could be a case where it's the most important game of the year. And I'm not sure why my Facebook thinks I'm opening the article here. I can try to pull up the article as quickly as possible, but it's not going to happen, I don't think. More likely than not. I'm not sure why my thing not respond here. Oh. Because my screen froze too, I guess, huh? Oh, no, I'm good. Okay. Not sure why this is loading up very slowly here. I have no Wi-Fi turned on, by the way, on my laptop here. Or no, I mean, on my phone. Sorry, not my laptop, but you kind of get the point. I'm trying to make this into a joint web page here, but it's not working out in my favor here. So anyway, let's see. Let's take a look at this. Let's see. Can't find the article on here, huh? Oh, it was probably below. Oh, that's why it was below. It was below my birthday pages on here. Hold on. Yeah. He said, quote, "All I know is I'm walking in there with courage." And that's it's going to be the DeMar Hamlin return game. is what this game's going to most likely be about here. That's on a CBS Sports article page. This is going to be an emotional game for both teams because they're all friends with Damar Hamlin. They're at home here. Buffalo Bills are banged up defensively. They have Rasul Douglas's debut game in Cincinnati, I believe, at this point. If I want, I don't know if he is playing in this game, though. That's the thing. I'm not sure if he is playing in this game. This should be a Damar Hamlin return to football. But again, I don't know what the story is going forward with Buffalo is and why they haven't played Damar Hamlin in any of these games. They should let him play. To play in a game that he didn't finish. That's what it should be about in this game. If they brought in Rasul Douglas in there for depth and defensive back, I'm sure of it. But he's a safety. So, and Damar Hamlin's going to be a free agent. So by next season, does this mean that this is the end of him for football? Is his career over? There's a lot there to digest within this whole story. And again, it's a lot to get into here. I think Cincinnati right now at this point has got the team overall that could really drive the I don't think they have it's gonna be Jamar Chase versus Rasul Douglas. That's one thing. The other thing is it's Christian Bradford versus T. Higgins. And the last time T. Higgins played Bradford, well, he exposed him. I don't know if Rasul Douglas makes a difference on this team overall, but I will say this right now for Buffalo here. This will be Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. And I got to be honest here, in a primetime slot, this kind of favors more Joe Burrow more than anything else. So I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals to beat the Buffalo Bills. And listen, the Bills might go 12-5 this year. We don't know. But they're not going to fall off the map here and miss the playoffs. So don't think that's why I'm going to pick the Bengals here because I think that drives them out of the playoff loop. It doesn't. It puts the Bengals right back in the playoff conversation, though, with this win. They're real contenders. Believe me, they are. So the Bengals at home on Sunday Night Football in prime time, I'm going with Joe Burrow over Josh Allen. I am. Josh Allen does not really he does have a great primetime record, don't get me wrong. But in this game here, with a lot of emotion going on at this point, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins going up at this point, proving they want to prove themselves in a really tough game here. This is the game to do it. They have a banged-up Buffalo Bill secondary. While Rasul Douglas making his debut there, getting formatted there. You got Von Miller who's playing there. You're short in the defensive end, linebacking core type of deal. You're shorthanded if you're Buffalo. Going in there against a very strong, very positive Bengal team. That's my one takeaway in this whole thing, is that particular matchup. So that's a big game in Cincinnati this weekend. So again, it's out in the open. It's a big what if here. So Bengals at home. In this case here, this is a toughie. This is a big game. This is a must win for Cincinnati. For Buffalo, it's a must win for them too because they want Damar Hamlin to go into Cincinnati with a win here. And I don't think that's going to be the case now going forward. I'm sorry. It's not going to be that case. So I'm going with the Bengals here at home to win by a score of 28-24 over the Buffalo Bills. And finally, for Monday Night Football, it's the LA Chargers taking on the New York Jets. The Jets are home for this matchup here. They're 4-3. The Chargers are 3.5-point favorites. I think the LA Chargers will get the W here. I don't think that this will be a game where Justin Herbert completely falls apart here. I don't. I think this will be a game where this will be a rebound game. Get the Chargers back in a playoff conversation, and it puts the Jets playoff conversation on hold for the next several weeks. Chargers get the win in this one here. I think they win 27-17. That will be the final score for that game there. Now we have NCAA football we got to cover. This was a long coverage on NCAA football here. Top 25, Ohio State versus Rutgers. I'm of course taking Ohio State. Kansas State versus 7th ranked Texas, a 23rd and 7 matchup. 7th ranked, of course, going to Texas. I'm going to Texas Longhorns here to beat the Kansas State Wildcats here. Notre Dame Fighting Irish facing Clemson and Clemson on the road. I think Clemson gets a loss there. Cade Kubinik is not good enough against this to beat this Notre Dame defense. Sam Hartman here is going to get his revenge game in Clemson. So I'm going to go with Sam Hartman's revenge win in Clemson here and improve to 8-2. Purdue is taking on Michigan. Michigan's 3rd ranked. Of course, Jim Harbaugh's return game to Science Ceiling, although it could be the suspension heard around the world before kickoff. Michigan will win this game. Purdue sucks. They'll drop to 2-7. Ole Miss, 10th ranked, is home against the Texas A&M Aggies. I think the Aggies have a good enough defense to hang with them, but not to beat them. I think Ole Miss will beat this team. It will be a close game. SEC West kind of rivalry matchup there. Sort of it's conference interplay, not much of a rivalry, but Ole Miss will get the win. UConn at 17th ranked Tennessee. What do you think here? Tennessee's going to beat the crap out of UConn. UConn football is going to be completely and utterly killed this weekend. No chance for UConn to win. Arizona State at 18th ranked Utah. Utah had the pleasure of beating the USC Trojans a couple weeks ago. They got killed against Oregon the next week. They're home again against Arizona State, another Pac-12 rivalry matchup there, sort of, but interconference play. I call it a rivalry because it's interconferences. They're rivals no matter how you look at it. It's schools against schools, but the Sun Devils have got nothing going on. They got a postseason band anyway. Their team stinks. Utah's going to get the win. Army at 25th ranked Air Force. Of course, Air Force has got the better overall team. They have a better overall offense in the country, and they got a better overall record than Army does. Air Force, in my opinion, should be ranked a lot higher than 25th. They're 8-0. They have a great team. I think they're going to get a W here against Army here. This should be an easy win for them. 12th ranked Missouri at 2nd ranked Georgia. I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs to get the win just simply because they're home. If it was at Missouri, it would be a tougher game. I think this would be a game where Carson Beck just completely rolls over Missouri and exposes that team for what they are. They're not going to win the SEC East this year. It'll be Georgia once again. They're not going to lose another game. They're not going to lose any games at all. So, I mean, unless they face Alabama in the SEC title game, could be an interesting matchup there. What are we setting up for later on in the year? So, but I think at home, and this will be a 15-point win. I think this will be like more like a 25-point win. I think this will be a game where Georgia's defense completely shuts down Missouri's offense there. I wouldn't say expose Connor Cook, but humble him. This will be a humbling game for him. 4th ranked Florida State taking on Pittsburgh Panthers. Jordan Travis continuing the ACC title run here. They're going to win the ACC title no matter how you look at it. They're going to beat Pitt. Pitt's got no chance. They suck. So there you go. The only upset pick I have the weekend right now, I have Oklahoma State coming in at number 22, beating 9th ranked Oklahoma. I think this will be back-to-back weeks where Oklahoma drops a game. OSU right now is ready for this home game here. Mike Gundy is ready for this home game. This is a rally here for the Cowboys here to go on in there to send a message to Daniel Gabriel. Alex Borman is pulling up a big game here. I think he'll throw for at least 5 touchdowns in this game and give himself 13 on the year. He'll outplay Dan Gabriel here. I think it'll be a 14-point win for the Cowboys. Give me the Cowboys 35-21 over the Sooners. 11th ranked Penn State taking on the Maryland Terrapins. Again, Penn State going to get the huge win. They're going to beat Maryland here. They're going to beat Tua's brother here. Tua's brother will probably be not in attendance of this game, maybe, or maybe he'll fly out. Who knows? I don't even know. I doubt it. They're in Germany right now. He might be able to watch the game this Saturday, hopefully. So we'll see there. I think Tua's brother was planning on going to Germany right after this game anyway. So if they could pull out a win against 11th ranked Penn State, it'd be interesting here. I don't see that happening. So I'm going to Penn State to get the win at home. Or on the road, I should say. At Maryland. Sorry. Might as well be a home game at this point anyway. Virginia Tech is at 13th ranked Louisville. Louisville at home. They are, in this case right now, a interesting bunch here. They have Jake Plummer's younger brother, possibly. I have no idea. It's Jack Plummer, senior out from Gilbert, Arizona. who's got 13 touchdowns, 8 picks this year. This will be a game where they'll win here, but it won't be convincing. I think Virginia Tech's got a much better quarterback here in play here. He's just been on a really bad team this year. That's how you got to look at it. This will be a lot closer than people think. I think Louisville gets to win there. I think it's gonna be like a 24-17 type of game, like a one possession win by them. It'll be a touchdown in the end there. I think Virginia Tech's quarterback outplays Plummer a little bit in this one here, so that'll be the moral of the story. I think Virginia Tech will cover though in the spread. Tulane at East Carolina. Of course, Tulane's going to beat East Carolina. Tulane's 24th ranked. East Carolina sucks. Their offense is terrible. So you got to go to Tulane and that win there. California at 6th ranked Oregon. I think Oregon Ducks will get the win there. Dan Lanning will have a pump up press conference beforehand and a pump up locker room meeting before that one. So Oregon will get the win. California's got nothing to play for here at this point right now. They had a chance last week to be even up with USC and give them their 3rd straight loss, but they didn't do it. So I think they're not going to beat Oregon in Eugene. Ain't going to happen. 21st ranked Kansas taking on Iowa State. I'm taking Kansas with a W here. I don't think Iowa State is that strong overall than Kansas is. Their team is good. Their defense is good. They're mismatched there, tricking wild card schemes. Just a lot of running play options and RPOs. They're good. I mean, they've got a team that can mess with the Cyclones a little bit here. In Iowa State, they're going to pull out the W. The matchup of the night, 5th-ranked Washington Huskies at the 20th-ranked USC Trojans. Caleb Williams versus Michael Penix Jr. This will be a game here where Washington outplays USC. They will go into USC here, and they'll get the W there. I don't believe in USC pulling out this upset win. Washington's got much better offensive talent. It's going to be too much for USC's defense to handle here, especially in the Rose Bowl here. I think in realistic terms here, we're going to see a Heisman performance of a lifetime here and probably the game of the year in USC. I think Caleb Williams will just come up short here in the end here. This will be a duel of a lifetime here. I think Washington gets the win there at USC 42-35. That is my prediction. 14th ranked LSU at 8th ranked Alabama. It's part of the triple header that's on CBS the weekend of. Alabama at home here is much better than LSU. LSU this year has had some tough losses this year, but the way I see it, I think Jaden Daniels here is going to have a game where he outplays Jalen Monroe. The problem will be is that Alabama's going to have a much better defense. It's going to keep this kid in the game, keep this kid going here, keep the momentum going for Alabama here. I think Alabama gets the W at home against LSU. Oregon State at Colorado. It's DJ Ugali's game versus Colorado here. And this is another upset game of the week here. I'm going Colorado to beat Oregon State. I can't see Colorado losing back-to-back games in order just to lose more games in the end here. I think Colorado's got a much better team. They're a little bit pissed off that they got robbed in the UCLA game, physically and emotionally in their locker room. This will be an emotional week. This will be Travis Hunter's come-out game finally here against DJ Ugali here. I think they held DJ Ugali under 190 yards. I think he'll get at least 165 yards throwing there. Colorado's defense will finally have their best defensive game of the year. And Shedeur Sanders will definitely outplay DJ Ugali. I can't see a game like this where DJ Ugali throws for 300 yards, 400 yards, and Shedeur does nothing. I think Shedeur here this will determine whether or not this kid has a future in the NFL this year or the following year, or next season or the 2 seasons after that. Like, that's the story to me. And this is a chance at this point for Oregon State to take that chance of a lifetime here and get the win of a lifetime here at home against Oregon State. They will prevail there. They will drop Oregon State to 6-3. They'll move to 5-4. I got Colorado in the upset win. 19th ranked UCLA at Arizona. Arizona has been a juggernaut right now for the last few weeks here. I think their momentum continues. I think they get the upset win at home against UCLA. They have home field advantage throughout this whole thing. It makes a lot more sense here for the Arizona fight game to continue here. This will get them in the rankings for sure if they get this pull-out win. They should have already been ranked already by beating Washington State and Oregon State. But here they're going to go against UCLA here at home. This is more of a much needed win for the Wildcats here, and I think they will get the win there at home against UCLA. So there you go. Those are my picks for the weekend right now going forward. I really didn't get a chance to get. I'm going to get into this whole thing, Chicago Bears defensive tackle Andrew Billings signed a 2-year extension. Sort of the unsung hero for the Bears. He's got a 2-year extension now, so again, good for him. Tyronn Lue believes he is being brutally honest by saying they could have used James Harden in the loss to the Lakers. They believe that they should have won that game against the Lakers, and they should have, I think. Harden would have been a difference maker in the game. They probably would have won in overtime, would have came back there late and got the win. Why didn't you play him then? And if you think in your mind that you could have played James Harden, why didn't you play him? So that's kind of on you, Tyronn. And yes, it's early November basketball. I understand that whole thing, but it's like, you could have done something with that. Rob Gronkowski predicts that the Patriots coaching shakeup will happen as offensive coordinator with Josh McDaniels, with him returning. I don't know what else there's more to the story here than just that realistically here. With that in mind, I kind of hope I can get this thing to open up here. And I did. Thank God. Let's see if I can actually scroll down this whole thing. But I think, like I said before, I'll say it once, I'll say it again here. I think Josh McDaniels should get away here. He should not be coaching next year or being an offensive coordinator at this point for this Patriot team. And I got to say, realistically here, I think this is a guy that and listen, Gronkowski was never a fan of Bill O'Brien either. It's not just a Patriot thing. So, that's just me telling like it is at this point. He believes in him returning here. I think he should stay away. There's no realistic chance here this guy has going forward here. I'm sorry. There really is to it. There's no real reason behind it, really, other than that. This is written by John Breach, by the way. Now, I don't know if he believes that I don't know why this is not bringing down to the page here. There we go. So this is what the article had written here. I'm not sure. Now it's just scrolling down the other things. Just want this to scroll down this. Before taking over the head coaching job in 2022, McDaniels spent a total of 13 seasons as an offensive coordinator for the Patriots. With McDaniels now out of a job after being fired this week, don't be surprised. This is ridiculous. This is not scrolling down at all. See, I hate when this happens because it goes right in the middle of the show here. Don't be surprised if he ends up with returning to his old team. I wouldn't be surprised either, but I think he should stay away. At least with the prediction from Rob Gronkowski, who thinks McDaniels will be the Patriots' offensive coordinator by the time the 2024 season rolls around. During an interview on FanDuel's TV's Up and Adams, Gronk said he expects Bill O'Brien to depart at the end of the 2023 season, which opened up the door for McDaniels to return. I feel like Billy O'Brien may be out there after this year, Gronk told Kay Adams. So if that's the case, I think Josh McDaniels comes back as an offensive coordinator for New England. That's for sure, post quote. I think he should stay away. I think Bill O'Brien is the problem too. But here's the way I look at it. Bring in a different offensive coordinator at this point. And this is the way I look at it at this point. I don't see Jim Harbaugh coming back as an offensive coordinator for the Patriots if that's the case here now going forward here. To me, that would be a stretch, I think, to bring this guy back. I mean, it wouldn't really make the most sense here. It just wouldn't. So, I mean, again, like that's just my opinion on that one going forward. But there are a lot of head coaching possibilities at this point for the Raiders since this is out in the open here. Jim Harbaugh being the number one possibility according to Cody Benjamin of CBS Sports, including his Instagram as well, because he's the one that posted this, by the way, for them. Frank Smith is offensive coordinator for the Dolphins. Ben Johnson is the offensive coordinator for the Lions. Brian Callahan, who was a Bengals offensive coordinator. Ejiro Evero was the OC for the Panthers. Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator for the Raiders and for the Cowboys, I should say. And the defensive coordinator for the Vikings is Brian Flores. So Dan Quinn could be leaving Dallas to go to Las Vegas, or Brian Flores. My prediction is going to be this right now going forward. I think Stanley gets fired for the Chargers as well. So I think whether they made the playoffs or not, it doesn't matter. I think he'll be one and done there. Jim Harbaugh will take that job in LA. I don't believe him going to Las Vegas. I think that'd be the worst idea. It just wouldn't work. I think Ben Johnson, though, takes a job for Los Angeles, I think. I think he takes – no, actually, you know what? No. I think he takes truth be told here, I think Dan Quinn will be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I do believe that. I think he'll fix that team's defensive problems. Hell, I think he'll take some defensive players with him. Not Micah Parsons, but enough to where it's like it's noticeable at that point in time. Maybe he'll take Stephon Gilmore with him to match up with Marcus Peters next year. Who knows? Darrell Bland staying in Dallas. He ain't going nowhere. I think he'll take the other guy with him as well. And I think he'll take not Travion Diggs, but he'll take somebody else alongside. But I think Dan Quinn will be the head coach next year. I think Jim Harbaugh will be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Bill Belichick's leaving New England. I do, but here's the thing. I don't think Bill O'Brien's taking that job in New England. That leaves the door wide open for Josh McDaniels to come in there at this point. And the way I see it, I think either Ron Rivera takes over that job or Josh McDaniels stays home and doesn't become the offensive coordinator for that team. The only way he comes back to New England here is that he comes back to be the coach. I just don't think he's going to do that, to be the offensive coordinator at this point. I don't think he's going to do that again and subject himself to that. I don't. Ron Rivera in a trade, sure. Eric Bieniemy in a trade as a head coach next year for New England, I'd take that at a heartbeat. I would not only take that in a heartbeat, I'd rather have him be the play caller here for Mac Jones and have Josh McDaniels have no title here. If you're going to bring him back as an offensive coordinator, have him have no calls here, have him have no hearsay here, and see what you get. But Dan Quinn is going to be the head coach for the Raiders. Brian Flores, in my prediction at this point, as far as head coaching goes, I think Brian Flores will be a head coach in the NFL. But it won't be for the Cleveland Browns. It won't be for the Vikings. It's going to be, realistically, I think, and I'm just shooting the breeze in this whole thing just for the hell of it here. I think Brian Flores is going to go after the head coaching job for Matt LaFleur. Because I got to be honest here. If they get shut out this weekend here, Matt LaFleur's on the hot seat for the entire season. That's one way of looking at this. This loss right now to the Los Angeles Rams without Matthew Stafford will put this guy on the hot seat for sure. That's my guarantee. So don't be surprised if that happens. That's the way I see it. James Harden was felt like making some headlines in Bleacher Report. He said James Harden on not playing freely with the 76ers. He said, quote, "I am not a system player. I am a system." So I guess the system will make his debut pretty damn soon. I think they're playing later on this weekend here. So he'll have his first official game pretty damn soon. Bam Adebayo was named the Heat's team captain, and this is a guy that did not re-sign with the team. So it's out in the open. By the way, with the Rangers winning the World Series, I don't know if I just mentioned this just now. I may have, but the Falcons are now the oldest franchise to not have a championship win. So that's got to sting a little bit at this point right now if you're the if you're anybody right now who has gotten the realization of that at this point now. Your team now is titleless still. The Texas Rangers won a championship before you did. So that's one way of looking at it, really. Chase Young and Nick Bosa, by the way, reunite in Week 10 next week when they take out Jacksonville Jaguars. And that should be a very interesting football game going forward. So I can't wait to see that. I really can't. Otherwise, there's not really much else to say here on the show. Almost 2 hours into it. It's a long show. I really wasn't planning on being on here for this long, to tell you the truth. I didn't think I'd be on the show as much as I thought I would be. But here I am. Matt Cannon was on the field last night. If nobody watched last night, he went from the booth to the sideline to call the plays last night. And look, it didn't make Pickett look good. So they barely survived that game. That's all I can say. The Steelers had a horseshoe up the ass last night. I don't know if they're taking the Vikings role as far as playoff run goes, but it does make things interesting. Let's put it that way. And Davante Adams mocked the critics while playing locker room basketball. This is what he mentioned to say right now in the thing. He said, this is what Adams had to say here. He said, quote, "This is why they're losing. They're worried about the wrong shit. They're in the locker room playing basketball. Effing run the right route, catch the ball." Post quote. That is what Davante Adams said, and he's not wrong for thinking this. I mentioned before with Mark Davis being one of the stupidest owners in the NFL today. He's taken Dan Snyder's soul and put him in himself. He might well be playing right now for the Washington Commanders, the Washington Redskins back in the day. That's how you got to look at this team now at this point. I mean, there's no other way of looking at it. You have right now a chance right now to make something happen, and you're not doing it. To me, the way I see it right now going forward, you're only hurting yourself in the process by opening your mouth. And he's not wrong, but is it a time to say it? That's the question. You know, is Aiden O'Connell not going to look in your direction this morning? Have you lost faith in you as a wide receiver? And a game like that against Detroit, what a defense that's not really had a lot of big, well-known defensive back names, and you come out there being targeted 7 times, only have 1 catch out of that game. And maybe that was a dig at Adams. Maybe Garoppolo doesn't like Davante Adams. Maybe he's just, maybe his true feelings really came out in this game, but it didn't come out at the right time. So in that regard, I mean, I don't, the way I see it, I don't know how anybody else would see it here, but Davante Adams is not a happy camper right now at this point. And Mark Davis should sell that team, but he's never going to do it. And he's never going to sell it to Tom Brady, which will be the first one in line to purchase that team, which would mean that would take him away from broadcasting next year. It might even limit his role on his own podcast. So, to me, it's just a fact right now that you have Davante Adams, who's completely frustrated, who does not want to be on this team in the first place. He's made that abundantly clear. I said the Baltimore Ravens, 2 to 3 first-round draft picks there by the Ravens for the next few years. You get Rashad Bateman and you get Devin Duvernay. With their skill set together, it makes for 2 Davante Adams possibly into 1. That's a 1-package deal for Davante Adams. I'd take that trade in a heartbeat. That should have been a trade that Mark Davis should have cashed in on and grabbed. You have Davante Adams there. The Ravens get him and Odell Beckham. And you could have you could have just traded Odell Beckham Jr. right to Las Vegas. Taking his crappy deal, and you could have just taken that money and ran with it. Split the profits down the middle with Davante Adams. You could have saved a ton of money. And instead now you got an overpaid wide receiver who's pissed off. He's not happy. He's not happy being on his Raider team. He's actually pissed off. He'd rather be with a team that's competing this year. Hell, he'd rather be sinking with the ship right now with Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers than being here. What does that say right now about his time in Las Vegas at this point? He'd rather be with a sinking ship, and he knows the Packers are sinking. He'd rather play for the Jets at this point, whoever the quarterback would be at this point. He doesn't care. He doesn't even care if Boomer signs and comes out of retirement and plays for them. That goes to show you right now what kind of person Davante Adams is. He wants to be with a team that's not with the Las Vegas Raiders. He wants out of Las Vegas in more ways than one. Can you blame the guy? Can you blame the guy at this point for feeling the way he's feeling at this point right now, being part of a team that doesn't want to compete, that just flat out quit on Monday Night Football? Think about it. Garoppolo didn't just – it wasn't the fact that Garoppolo just quit on McDaniels, because that wasn't the case at all. This was a case where the team quit on Garoppolo and Garoppolo quit on the team. That's it. Marcus Peters was the only person that showed up in that game and played great in the entire game. And he should have been freaking traded at this point. This is a guy that does not want to be here either. And honestly, you bring Marcus Peters back to Baltimore with Davante Adams here, that kind of evens out the trade, right? And so I look at that and I think to myself, that is the one thing right there I don't understand when it comes to this football team, is why they shoot themselves in the foot constantly, all the time. They have not had a good head coach since Bill Callahan. Since Bill Callahan was there with Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, Jerry Porter, the wide receiver, Tim Brown, those were the days that the Raiders were actually having some great football. They haven't had that greatness in over 21 years. It's sad. It really is it's the saddest thing to watch right now on cable television. Is this Raider team every week trying to convince everybody that they have the answers? They don't have anything. They don't have diddly poo when it comes to that. They don't have it. And so I look at that and I say to myself, you know what? This could be the story. This could be a fairy tale ending failure here. There's a lot of ways this could go. And so I bring this up because this has to be said. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all whatsoever for this team. And it's unfortunate because this team could do so much better right now than what they're showing right now at this point. That's the way I look at it. I don't know how anybody else could look at it this way, but that's the way I see it. Right now, they're in trouble. That's how you got to look at this. Right now, they're in trouble right now. They got a wide receiver right now who does not want to be there. You got a defensive linebacker at this point who's going through a psychological bad behavior here, going on a rampage, going through some mental problems. You got Marcus Peters, who is calling out the owner sometimes. You got the entire team that's calling out ownership. You got the entire people that were just fired. All three guys calling out the ownership. Figuring out why the hell they just got fired for. What the hell they do wrong. But the way I look at it, Mark Davis just doesn't care. He knows the season's over. He knows that one game of quitting on it in a game like that. Look, here's a funny thing that gets people talking here. You know who was an Aiden O'Connell kind of guy? He sure as hell wasn't Mark Davis. That was Dave Ziegler. He was a Jared Stidham kind of guy, and he was a freaking Aiden O'Connell kind of guy. That was not a Mark Davis kind of guy. It's kind of ironic to think about it this way, but if you had to look at this for what it is, and this is just me talking here, me just shooting the breeze, just calling like I see it here. When you watch this stuff play out, when you watch this whole thing just come into play here, and there are a lot of ways of looking at this, if you're just a practical person who's covering this stuff throughout the media, Mark Davis hated everything about this. He never wanted Josh McDaniels. He never wanted Dave Ziegler, and he never wanted Mick Lombardi to be around. You know what he wanted, really? Realistically, and I'm not kidding when I say this, he wanted, and I'll give you the following. I'll give you the following people he actually really wanted on this team because it's the God's honest truth. He wanted Tom Brady till he's 50. Was never going to happen. He wanted Bruce Arians to be the head coach there with Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator with the Buccaneers general manager. I'm not kidding when I say this. That's what he wanted back in 2019. Because you want to know something else right now about this whole thing that makes this whole thing very interesting here? Mark Davis was never a Derek Carr kind of guy. Al Davis, before he died, said, get Derek Carr. Al Davis watched Fresno State football and actually watched this whole thing play out. Mark Davis never wanted any of this in the first place. He wanted Devontae Adams, he wanted Mike Evans, and he wanted Odell Beckham Jr. on this team. I'm not kidding. Those are the guys he actually wanted. He got one of three. But the problem is he wasn't the one that got it. It was Dave Ziegler, and it got to him. That's why he got fired. He thought, screw it. Right? These are not my guys. Why do I have to keep these guys around? And the more I think about it, yeah, Tom Brady had a little influence into the whole thing. But here's the thing. Mark Davis is a dumb owner at this point. He's no Al Davis. That's the God's honest truth. He is not an Al Davis kind of guy. And it's funny when you think about it, really, for a guy that you think would have this stuff figured out at this point. He doesn't. He shoots himself in the foot and costs his team every single time. That's the God's honest truth. That's the God's honest truth. There's no other way of describing that whole situation than that. And realistically, it's kind of stupid when you think about it. Like, think about that for a minute. You have an owner at this point who does not care about the season. That's one way of looking at it. He does not care about you guys going forward, period. End of story. And the way I see it, I think the way everybody else freaking sees it, I think that shouldn't be a shock to anybody. Chandler Jones, he wanted that guy. He got that guy. The rest of it was a complete dumpster fire. Complete, and utter dumpster fire and a failure as an owner. I watched this whole thing play out. There's a lot of people out there that may have forgotten what Al Davis wanted from really his son. And I hate to say it, but this is the God's honest freaking truth here. And what has he delivered so far at this point? Just Al Davis rolling around in his grave. That's how you got to look at that. That's what this is what this kid's delivered to this franchise for the past 13 years. There's no replica of what this kid has been doing right now with this organization. It's been a complete and utter freaking disaster. A disaster that should have been avoided a long time ago. You know what the sad thing is that he also wanted in this whole thing? He wanted Rob Gronkowski to come there. By the way, how the hell were you going to be able to pay all these guys, including Tom Brady, when you are money poor? This is what I don't understand about this whole thing. You're money poor, and you want all this talent to come around here. How is that going to work? He had the right idea of not getting Antonio Brown around here. At least he had the smarts to know not to get him and waste time with him. Jesus. At least at that point, you have some freaking sense. You have some common sense in your mind here, not to go through that ordeal. But to go through all that and we're going to pay these guys? They're going to take pay cuts every year because you don't have the money? This is before you actually got into business with the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA. And this is why the women's basketball league are underpaid, because you got these other owners who are outside that sport, who's going into women's sports knowing that they're going to do these things the old way. And there lies the problem. There lies the problem within the sports world today. It's these dumb owners who aren't as profitable as they are, who are not smart enough to do what they're doing, and they're doing it anyway, and it's backfiring them in the worst way possible, and they can't stop themselves. They can't do it. That's the problem in this whole thing. And the problem in this whole thing is, if there's one way of looking at this for what it is, it's an entirely bad organization all the way around, from top to bottom, how it's run, how it's developed, how they freaking plan their freaking day on getting up in the morning and looking themselves in the mirror and realizing how much of a complete and utter disappointment that this team is, and what he is as a person, as an owner, just simply as a businessman. He hasn't delivered on anything since his father passed away. You want to know what the funny thing is at this point? Just the idea of it. Just the idea of all this coming into play here. Coming into play, it's not looking good. Right? It's not looking good at all whatsoever. The motto for the Raiders is just win, baby. I think the motto is right now is I'm too dumb for this. I mean, think about it that way. Al Davis, by the way, who was not even a California resident, Mark Davis, who's not a California resident, was born in Brockton, Mass. Think about that for a minute. These guys, I mean, and I could be wrong on that one. Maybe he was moved to California well after that, but actually, I think the more I think about it, I think that was the case. That they did move at that point. But here's my theory behind this whole thing. The motto is just win, baby. I know I just gave that one. The motto to be right now is we're losers. That's their motto. They don't have the Al Davis attitude at this point. That Al Davis lifestyle got sucked out of this team for a while. You know what was bad at that point in time? When Carson Palmer didn't want to be there and didn't even care about Al Davis at that point in time. In fact, Al Davis and Carson Palmer never really liked each other that much. There you go. There's a guy that threatened retirement because he didn't want to play for his organization. I think Devontae Adams might be heading down that exact same route, playing for this organization. Threatened retirement. You'll get out of there then in a heartbeat. Threaten to quit the league. That's the only way you escape this right now if you're Devontae Adams. It's crazy to think about it, but it's true. I mean, there really is no other way of looking at it. When you have an organization right now that is trying to pretend that he's Al Davis and he's not, at least Al Davis had the money. At least Al Davis had the funding. This guy doesn't. And if he was alive today, right now, he'd fire his kid and bring back the ownership. That's one way of looking at it. If Al Davis was alive today, he'd fire his kid. I said, I don't care if you're my son or not. You suck. Get the hell out of here. But there's nobody right now to do that. There's no way in that family to step in, to take over that role. Honestly, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that outside of all this, there's nobody else that could step in there and be like, hey, man, what are you doing? You just fired your best chances right now at this point of getting into the Super Bowl run this year. You benched your quarterback. You got a quarterback at this point that doesn't want to play football at this point, that acts like he does, wants to be like the whole situation here is this right at this point. There's two reasons why they're not going to allow Tom Brady to be an owner for an NFL football team. Here's one reason why. They don't want him to play at the same freaking time, and they don't want to make crazy demands at this point and things they can't meet up. But here's the funny thing. At least Tom Brady would be able to willingly pay these people. Is Mark Davis want to do that? Think about it for a minute. You got a terrible Tom Brady here. You don't have cheap Tom Brady that came from New England. He does not have the Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick system in his blood. He never did. He played the press conference politics role as far as what he would say in the press conferences, games before and after, but never really had that when he went to Tampa Bay and never really had it now here when he went to the Las Vegas Raiders. He's speaking clearly on the podcast about how he feels about this team, how he feels about the league, how he feels about Roger Goodell being the commissioner still for the next 3 or 4 years with that dumb extension that he got. He's opening his mouth there with that. He let his presence known on his podcast about how he felt about that whole situation. And there you go. You have an entire situation playing out right now, right before our eyes here, and no one has got the courage to say anything about it in that Las Vegas organization besides Tom Brady. And the problem is Mark Davis doesn't have the balls to do things himself. Just like Roger Goodell sometimes doesn't have the balls to do things himself. But the story is right now at this point, if you had to look at this right now from a micro, from a on your TV screens, and watching it in person, and how this is, and from a microscope, really, and put on your glasses if you're old diehards in the black hole here. They've been in the black hole since Al Davis died, and they cannot escape it. And it ain't the black hole of the Las Vegas Raiders or the Oakland Coliseum. It's the black hole of purgatory. And they have not found an escape route out of that for years. And that's where they're going to be for the time being with this guy around who just threw away your best chances this year in winning a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be the guy this year that led that team to a Super Bowl. Whether anybody would agree or disagree about this whole thing, we could debate this all day long. The reality of it is that if you're the Raiders right now at this point, I would quit on your owner, but not on your coaches. Antonio Pierce being the guy who may solve their problems. He's just another dude in a uniform bodysuit who's going to coach this football team and do absolutely nothing and not make one bit of a difference here because this guy does not know how to coach Aiden O'Connell because, A, he's an unknown quarterback who just happened to throw 200-plus yards against the 32nd ranked worst defense in the NFL at the time, and he couldn't even get the win there. And that's what would have the team quitting on the game itself. And think about that for a minute. You couldn't even win that game. How could you not win that particular game? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And the sad thing is they can't figure anything out. That's their problem in this whole thing. You got a team that is just a complete mess. And the first thing you do is get rid of the people that helped you in the first place? Why? Because you didn't make the decision yourself? That's pure selfishness. That's it. That's all there is to it. That look at my face I just gave right now was a look of just complete and utter shock. Because that's what this was. I think McDaniels was never the problem with his team. I don't think he was. People want to say that he was because of like what was said in backlash from last year to this year. He's not a really bad coach. Yes, he was under the Belichick tree and it really was a Tom Brady tree of like making you look. This is a perfectly good example of Brady tree after that. Because he was never involved. Maybe he planted it in his head. Maybe. Garoppolo being benched at this point right now, 9 interceptions. Is that Tom Brady getting in your ear, or is that you getting in your own mental way? Did you fall in line of the bad Raider quarterback class? That's the question that's on everyone's mind at this point. I mean, there's a list of them. Look at Jamarcus Russell at this point. He's horrible. And that was 4 years of that. And that's after you had Kerry Collins and couldn't do anything with that. You know how pathetic that sounds when you think about it for a minute? As an organization at this point that completely crapped the bed here? Wow, they're terrible. Jamarcus Russell brought so much misery on that team here. They had college coach after college coach. They couldn't even get an NFL coach to go there because no one wanted to deal with Al Davis's bullshit. Really, they didn't want to deal with the dim-witted son. You know what Mark Davis is? He's a fat version of Hunter Biden. That's what he is. The only difference is that Hunter Biden is smarter to get out of his situations. Mark Davis doesn't have that brain power. He doesn't. It's just, to me, if you're an NFL owner, you should be smart enough to know how to get out of your own messes. You don't know how to do it. That's your problem. You just don't know how to do it. And to me, I'm just surprised with the whole thing playing out the way it played out. The fact that you're dumb enough to say to yourself, I'm going to fire these guys because I didn't have the smarts to do my own job. That's what you have personnel there for. That's the whole point. They make your job a hell of a lot easier. There was no reason to fire these people. Instead, you go out there and you fire them for no reason. It makes no freaking sense. What you did was put more gasoline on the fire on your entire season if you're the Las Vegas Raiders. You might as well make yourself the worst team in the NFL right now, and you're not even that bad. But with the decision-making you made during the trade deadline, it was worse than what New England did. You have players that wanted out of there in the worst way possible, and you didn't make it happen. Instead, you fired the wrong people. You fired the wrong people for no reason whatsoever. And why? To prove a point? That this is your team? No one's trying to take your ownership. The owner that wants to do that is Tom Brady. And you want to know why? Because he's smarter than you. That's why. He's smarter than you. That's the difference. So if you can't figure that one out, your father's rolling around his freaking grave right now looking down going, what the hell? Why the hell is my son destroying something that I created? That's what he's doing. There's no other way of looking at it. Anyway, you can follow me on my social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. It's all Boston sport related. It's just J Alva Sports 123 on Snapchat, Joseph Alva Boston Sports 1996. Joseph Alva on Facebook and Joe Alva Boston Sports on Instagram. You all have a great weekend. I'll see you all on Monday. This was a long show. I apologize for going on for way too damn long, but I want to get my point across on that whole thing. That's all. It was a point that needed to be said right now. This guy is an abomination as an NFL owner. And I hope to God that he considers selling that team real quickly. For less interrupting me on YouTube, for TikTok fans out there, for all you Snapchat people that follow me on there, for all my social media, hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all on Monday. Have a great weekend, guys. I'm out.